sit back, relax, we got the brain of band. No need to stress in the house, is Van Bellen. The game is windsurfing, you can't yell them or tell them. We get the news, the views, the win biz. The brand's gear, just plus the world's best quiz. The Cogs, PWA. We're professionals without the pay. There's nothing in pole dancing that we won't chat. From tandem boards to a windsurfing cat. It's your one-stop shop for a laugh and listen. Tune in each week or you'll be doing the missing.
Good morning. Morning, boys.
Maciek is here. The big man. The big dog.
We have got, obviously, for people who listen audio only, we have got a star-studded lineup today. Now, we've got an extra man. We've got Maciek Rakowski back on the podcast. Obviously, for people who the OGs of the podcast will know, he's the main man who kind of started this whole podcast thing, and he did a bloody good job. And we might be getting him back in to do kind of a rerun of a couple of the classic big names coming through. But Maciek, tell us where you are. Where are you at the moment?
I'm in Tenerife. I just arrived, and I'm just trying to find a decent background picture so you don't see a white wall. I just had one and I lost it somehow. Yeah, it's great to be back on. We were just chatting before that it's nice not to be the host because you're actually like not stressing out about how the podcast is going to go and what questions you need to prepare and whatnot.
Yeah.
So
as the people who listen to this podcast will know, I'm not stressed anyway. We're just having a chat because I think it's a good time of the week. There's a lot of windsurfers out there that might want to just join in with this chat. And the reason for doing this chat, obviously we've got Paul Van Bellen, I should really say, he's in Western Australia over there as usual, is just to talk about the movers and shakers from this or last year's sponsorship brands, you know, who signed with who. We've got wave sailors, racers, freestylers. Have I got a list of everyone? Maybe not. I'm sure I've missed a few people, but the idea is I'm kind of interested in it. It is an interesting subject. It's not always as straightforward from the outside as from the inside. Maybe Maciek's got some inside lines. Maybe there's some stuff that I know he knows that he can't tell us, but it's still a nice little tease because I think it is interesting. So yeah, if you guys at home have got any questions about sponsorship, or you've got questions for us that we can answer about certain brands signing certain people, maybe there's some stuff that doesn't come up, definitely hit us up in the comments and we'll do our best to answer those questions.
Definitely this game of windsurfing and podcasting and all that, it kind of teaches, like, I'm terrible at hiding things and like kind of sneaking, and like when I think of something, it just goes like, it doesn't, like it goes straight to where the thought is created, like straight to the mouth without the thinking.
You'd be a good commentator. That's like me. And sometimes it gets me in trouble, but it's just, it comes in and it comes out. And I go, ooh, that maybe didn't come out right. Oh, that came out quite funny. Oh, that was a bit by the line. If I'd have heard it first, I wouldn't have said it.
And this game, it teaches you to like think of what you're going to say. And then you're like way more miserable. Like you're like, oh, shit, should I say this? Or how this is going to come across? Oh, I might offend somebody, or it's just so much stress and hustle.
So what you're saying is you have got a lot of gossip that you're not allowed to tell us, but if we try hard enough, something might sneak out.
I think I have a bit of gossip, not much, but kind of some of the stuff is quite big. So I think that's the thing. But you know, a lot of those people I kind of see every day or you know, see on tour or whatever, and I don't really, you know, it's just this thing where, yeah, probably 5-10 years ago I wouldn't care, but now I'm like this, you know, new year, new me. Consider it.
Okay, sounds boring.
Nice.
Why have we got you on? I thought you were going to be dishing the dirt, saying the.
I have a few hot takes. I have a few hot takes about the few signatures that have been
Okay.
Put pen to paper. So that, don't worry, you'll get something out of it.
Okay. So I'm just looking at the comments coming in already, and there's already one here, which I'm not quite sure I agree with. Good morning. Kind of surprised that Starboard does not have any top man sailor in the waves now, which, you know, we did a podcast with Liam Dunkerbeck the other day. So it depends, I guess, how you're judging Liam Dunkerbeck. He did get top 3 in Maui.
Ben, Liam's on Duotone now.
That's what I'm on about. You're right. I'm such an idiot because I was just saying it. As I said it, I was thinking, yeah, obviously he's just gone to Duotone. That was the whole idea of the podcast. I told you
that's what the question is about, because they I think
good job. Good job. I'm on it. I told you I didn't plan this.
It's all good.
I don't know, like
it gets confusing. There's so many chopping and changing. It's hard to follow sometimes, isn't it?
Yeah, I'm not like plugged in enough into the Starboard or into the wave sailors, but I would imagine maybe it's not by design. Maybe what happened was I know that they didn't renew Antoine's contract. It was actually like announced during the Aloha Classic. It was a bit weird, I thought. But then maybe they didn't see Liam leaving, you know? Well, and it's this game where you're trying to like put the chess, like you have an infinite amount of money for riders, but the riders, they're talking also to other brands, and I'm quite sure the brands don't talk to each other. So it's a little bit like it's a funny little game of musical chairs, you know. And let's
just go through a few, because maybe, you know, not everyone is totally up to date with everything. So here's obviously a couple I've wrote down. I might have missed some. If I have, please feel free to tell me. So what this comment is alluding to, apparently someone said your dad brain's kicking in. It's totally true. It's been a hectic morning, I can tell you that. But the people who have left Starboard this year, Antoine Martin, big rider for them, you know, made some amazing videos last year, probably some of the best in the industry in terms of production, you know. And if you saw his crazy video he launched the other day, or one of the guys that are filming him launched that crash section, and it was one of my favorite videos probably of last year is that video. I've watched it a few times, and there's just so many frigging cool things on that video. So, you know, Antoine Martin leaving Starboard, and obviously Liam Dunkerbeck obviously has left Starboard. He's now on Duotone, which is obviously the reason for the podcast last week. So yeah, there was Jager Stone on Starboard, but now he is on Severne. That's correct, isn't it? He was on Starboard. Yeah. That was a bit ago, obviously. Who am I missing? Are we missing a big Starboard wave? Are we missing
wave? Something? No, but also Blanca Alabau.
Blanca Alabau, yeah,
left. And this I think I can say, and nobody's gonna be too offended. Like, if anyone ever met Sven Rasmussen, the owner of Starboard, you'll know that he's an all-in type of person. So if he puts his mind to, we're going to have the biggest team in the world, they had the biggest team in the world for a while. And I think this year he was like, we're going to do some cutting. And when he does the cutting, it's also all in. You know what I mean? There's like, he's really a very, I don't know how to say, like black and white type of person. Like when you talk to him, you get this energy. The guy's like, I think maybe close to 60 years old, and the energy, man, the energy he has, and the kind of force that he enforces his idea with, is just like second to none. I swear. Like Sven Rasmussen is I think he's a guy made for this.
He fires definitely. Also, there has been a switch around internally. I know, you know, the old marketing guy has come back in, who I used to work with. Starboard are back supporting the channel this year. So they cut a few riders, but they're supporting Windsurfing TV. So
that's where the money went. That's where the money went.
Betty, you're the highest. You're the highest paid sponsored sailor for Starboard now. That's cool.
No, it's cheap, but like you say, maybe again without speaking to Starboard, properly about this. I'm guessing, like you say, maybe they're cutting back and then they're looking at the market and seeing what's available, because there are a few riders available. Deals have definitely, there's been a lot of deals this year. I mean, just look at this list. This is just the wave list. I've obviously got a racing list. The freestyle list is very small and it could be bigger, but it's quite hard to get into all that. But in terms of wave, just going to run through the list for people who can't see it, who's looking, listening audio only. Antoine Martin, and we'll go through these a bit more in depth. Gone from North Starboard, which I didn't think he was going to be leaving North. It's quite interesting. North's another topic. North Starboard to Goya Quattro. Now, I didn't see that coming. Again, we'll speak about that in a minute. Arthur Rutkin has left.
Hot takes again coming.
Yeah, hot takes are definitely coming. No, but Arthur Rutkin left Duotone. He's been with Duotone a long time, since he was a kid, basically. And no news on where he's going, although there was a bit of a teaser out there. Tim Van Daan, obviously like a Tenerife local, gone Bruch, because obviously Danny Bruch is now doing Bruch sales as well, which is, we're going to do a podcast with Danny coming up as well. I've been speaking to him a bit. There's some interesting stuff going on. Obviously, Alessio Stillrich left Simmer Style, and he's gone Bruch, and I think that seems like a good fit.
What happened there, Benny? What happened with Alessio? Yeah, tell us, Benny.
There was some bad energy there, wasn't there?
Yeah, I'll go through. I'm going to go through these. I'm just giving a bit of a, because the guys listening audio only can't see the list, so I'm just going to run through. Okay. Julian Salmon going from Gun Bruch. I thought that was a super good fit for him, and then going over to Naish, which I really didn't see coming. I heard rumors maybe Duotone it was looking like, and that for me came out of the blue, so that was kind of an interesting one.
Me too. I have a story there.
Yeah, okay, good. We've got Rino Goshi. It said he signed for Starboard. I saw that somewhere, but I thought he was already on Starboard, one of the Japanese crew, young 16-year-old, absolute nutter. I love his attitude. He's just a lunatic. We got Liam Dunkerbeck, obviously going Severne Starboard to Duotone, fall out. Justina Schnally signing for Flikka boards, which I don't think she's had a board sponsor for a few years. So that was kind of another one. Takara Ishii, again, I didn't see this one coming. RRD, sales and boards, and he's moved over to Goya, which does make sense because I think his dad is doing Goya in Japan. Again, can't confirm that totally, but I think there was something to do with that. Moritz Mount, obviously on Simmer Style now, come from no sponsor really. Ricardo Campello, now that's just a question mark in itself, which we will touch on. And then obviously the big move of the summer was Paul Van Bellen going from Ezzy and Strapper or something like this over to Goya, and Goya sold his soul totally now. Just wearing the t-shirt.
I like how my name's directly below Campello. I'm sort of similar ability.
Yeah, so that's like a quick rundown of the wave sailors. I've got the racing list as well, which we'll go into, but any questions or any sort of information on those moves? I thought for me, the Antoine Martin one was an interesting one. You kind of thought in your head, or I did anyway, Quattro Goya were pretty well stacked. We just heard about Takara Ishii going to Goya. There's been other people. There's got, Brasilio and all the kind of big names. There's quite a lot of people on Goya. I felt like maybe I'm wrong. And then
I thought it would be interesting maybe to let the people know how the process works from the rider side, right? So around Aloha Classic, he gets notified that his contract is not going to get renewed at Starboard.
Yeah.
And then you sort of, and it's
let's just start at the beginning. So usually
it's really cool that this at least comes in October. I don't know, maybe his contract was until October, I don't know, but they announced it really early, so maybe he even knew in the summer, I don't know. But
Silt,
around Silt time. Okay, so early October he knows. So then he starts canvassing the landscape, right? And then certain sales are attached to certain boards. So sometimes I'm not sure, for example, if North together with Quattro would be a realistic opportunity. Or if you're on Quattro boards, you have to be on Goya sales. I'm not sure. We would have to ask Francisco. But for example, you can't really be, I don't know. You can't be on Duotone sales with different boards. So then, whether or not North was an option, and you heard a little bit of like Loft Exocet or maybe just Exocet rumblings around him, and maybe North didn't really like the Exocet fit, so there is like
let's just stop for a second, because that's interesting information. So there was talk of Exocet, maybe a Loft sale Exocet deal, because I have, these guys support the channel. I spoke to them last year in the Deathy. I'm like, you boys need to get some more riders. You'll definitely get more benefit by having riders. So that would have been a very interesting one. Okay, so that was on the table, or in some sort of speak.
Yeah. Okay. So then, so you start canvassing the thing, and sometimes it's like, shit, I really want to go there. I really have a good understanding with these guys. And I know that North also was heavily involved in producing those videos, but maybe, without a board sponsor, you can't really stand on one leg. Trust me, I did it last year. It was rough. I thought it's going to be fun, and I'm going to test all these boards, and I'm going to pick what's the best, and everybody's going to just throw boards at me, and I'm just going to test them, and I'll do a YouTube series of it and whatever. Not really.
No.
So then, then you do the canvassing, you see what's possible. Sometimes timing is really key, because maybe somebody already committed, somebody's pot committed, like in poker, but they would love to sign Antoine, but they already committed to somebody else. And so it was
a bit like musical chairs, I thought, this year. I quite enjoyed it, like I said. And it comes down to money. It comes down to deals. I know Antoine, loves the Quattro boards. He's been using versions of certain ones over the years, I guess, in between, trying stuff out from other people, customs. Back in the day, was he on Quattro? No, Neil Pride. I can't remember. I'm sure he's tried a few in the past, and he spends a bit of time. So, well, anyway, it's still an interesting one. I think that's a big move for them, because I think he's a great rider.
Maciek, I've got a question for you. What do you think brands these days are looking for in riders? Because the easy answer is just to get results. That would have been the old days, but now we've got the age of social media and attention, and what you can, get out there. So what do you think brands are actually looking for these days when they're actually signing up the different riders?
Yeah, I think, for some results are still really important. If you're a performance-oriented brand, if you really affiliate yourself with performance. And to be really honest, results, they also drive your media attention. If you're a world champion, you're going to get media attention. You're going to get magazines. You're going to get social followers. You just will. It's just the way the world works. But it's really important to have that, and to do it in a way that the brands like, and that the brands really, that they can identify themselves with. For instance, some brands, they want to have a really clean image. Say Duotone is probably one of them. I did ask Craig Gertenbach on the podcast straight, why are you guys so German, for lack of a better word, and other brands, they want a little bit more crazy. Other brands like Antoine is definitely on the side of speaking his mind and doing crazy moves, and results are probably secondary. So I think it really depends brand to brand, but definitely it's changing more towards the the visibility thing. I think Nico Preen is a really good example, which, you know, last year he finished top 10, which is an amazing result in Slalom X, but I don't think whether he finished 7th or 17th, you know, it really would change much, because his value is so high because of the media that he does, his own platform, you know.
Yeah.
The biggest windsurfing channel in the world. I'm sorry.
Yeah,
Ben.
no, that's fair enough. I think that's again. I think we talked about it before, but it is interesting. I'm surprised more riders have not got their own individual channels. Like, if you do your own individual channel, I think it just adds another string to it. The problem is it's a lot of work. Like, people go, it's like you said, which we'll come on to, because we're going to go into the racing stuff in a minute, but it's like you have all these ideas that you're going to make these videos with the boards and trial the boards, and you realize it don't work like that. There's a lot going on, you know, and it takes a lot of effort. If you just have a board that you're happy with and you can work with it and just get it dialed in, it's probably better than trying everything and getting all these two ideas and trying to make films. And
yeah, I'm sitting like opposite of two massive windsurf YouTubers, so I should probably ask how that's done. But I did a year of my YouTube channel, like consistently, you know, week by week, and you know, reached like probably maybe 6,000 subscribers only. So probably my content wasn't good enough or whatever, but it just never even paid for itself, you know.
No, it doesn't. That's the problem. You can't just be, well, I don't think anyway, just from what I've done, if you just trying to work off ad revenue from YouTube, like what you see in the news, it's like, it's fake news. It's like, oh, look at these YouTubers, they're killing it. And you're like, yeah, well, yeah, they've got millions of subscribers. You know, this is different. But the brand deals, the merchandise, all that stuff is what makes the money. Like, windsurfing TV wouldn't happen without beer money, without, you know, brands putting in some, you know, not much money, but there's a base money to end up helping pay out for Alfie and all those sort of stuff. Because to do it on your own, just, you know, Paul's got amazing skill with flying a drone. So maybe just, but then if he actually just went and got jobs flying drones, he'd probably make way more money. It's like, it's always a bonus on the side of it, I think, which it kind of keeps you motivated to do that.
The point is that I have the ideas. Whatever, somebody, let's say you have ideas for a channel, but you still need to be in front of the camera, and you still need to find somebody that's behind the camera.
Yeah, this is
and most likely somebody that's going to edit it as well. Yeah. And you need to pay that person, and that person needs to be really good. Like, you know, it's these days the threshold of content is like the threshold of quality of content. You know, it's just insane how good the stuff out there is. You know, like Antoine's stuff. Like I've been to Guadeloupe this winter, and I met Matteo, the guy behind. I hope I'm not butchering his name, but the guy behind Antoine's content.
Yeah.
And it's just, you know, it's a young guy, super skilled, super stoked on windsurfing.
Yeah.
You know,
you couldn't pay him what he's worth. Like,
exactly.
If you had to pay him what that actually cost, I doubt it's even close.
Exactly. So he probably, you know, gets different jobs because he's so skilled. And then Antoine's thing, he does, you know, semi, you know, for, I don't know, much less money. Yeah. And because he just loves it, you know, and that's a person you need to find. And, you know, you don't find that person everywhere, you know.
But interesting. So if we look at that list there, Antoine Martin.
Wait. Okay. Are we doing Antoine Martin hot takes?
No, but okay, go on.
I think, and I wrote this to Ben, I think Antoine signing for Quattro Goya, and this is going to be a backhanded compliment, so bear with me, please. Antoine Martin signing for Quattro Goya is weak. And not necessarily because you have this guy who's, well, top 5, top 6, maybe most recognizable wave sailors in the sport, right? You have Costa, Ricardo, no particular order. Brausinho, Costa Ricardo, Sarakita, that's 4. I'm blanking on someone. Maybe Victor. And then you have Antoine, yeah? Let's say top 6, no particular order. And you're signing with a brand that already has one of those 6, and actually it's been there for 10 years. When you see a yellow Goya, it's Brausinho. When you see a yellow Goya ripping, it's Brausinho, right? So then why don't you go, like the North thing was perfect because you're building a brand around you, you're the star of the show, you're the guy, and that's what I would love to see out of from Antoine,
But
because he's so good, so crazy, the content is so amazing. Like,
okay, so
go somewhere and elevate a brand.
Okay, so on the
yourself.
side of that, who is the main rider for Quattro? Doesn't Antoine fit that Quattro really well?
He does.
I think he does. And I think that's what they've done. They've looked at the market and gone, you know what? Quattro's had that really strong name for custom boards for forever, and production boards, let's say, but definitely custom boards. Goya has kind of taken a lot of it now because they've got the sails, and the sails are way more visual than boards when you see pictures and stuff. And I think they thought, you know what? I think we need to up the Quattro element now. And I think they've looked at Antoine Martin, see the crazy shit he's doing. They know him really well. And I think he's a great fit for Quattro. So I think they're thinking, you know what? That's what we're going to have him pushing Quattro. Obviously, he needs sales. So then it's obvious he's going to go on Goya sales. But I think the main sort of side of Antoine Martin is the Quattro deal. I could be wrong with that.
Yeah, which is just like on the first, when you see it, as you say, you see the Goya sale.
Yeah.
The Quattro board, you don't think about it so much. And as you say that, it makes a lot of sense because Quattro does custom graphics, and obviously the boards are really good. You don't need to, because it also, it takes time to develop boards around you, depending on the shaper and how many prototypes and whatever. And I know he's gone through that at Starboard. Yeah. So maybe he doesn't want to go from scratch again. And
I think he fits it. I think he fits Quattro perfect because he's not a standard sailor. I don't look at him and think I want his production board. I look at Antoine Martin and just think this guy is fucking cool, and he rips, and he's doing just crazy stuff. And for me, he fits that custom kind of feel. And that's the feel you want from Quattro. I don't think you're looking at him on a board and going, I'm going to buy that board. You look at him and go, he's on a cool brand. I want to be on a cool brand, rather than Brausinho. He's on, their main board. He's doing this. And you're thinking, he's sailing in Pozo and all these other places on the big boards. And I think that's more like a production board selling point for me.
Yeah, he's a world champion. It's, it's a very direct marketing, but interesting comment here from the most avid windsurf follower, Tomasz. He says, that's why Antoine was using a Goya board in Japan to elevate Quattro. I didn't even notice. So thanks.
But again, so he's new to the brand. I'm guessing in Japan, again, I could be totally wrong, but I'm thinking you just use the tools that are going to work. So at the moment, if you're on for custom boards and getting all your boards sorted, you're not going to be already sorted. It takes a while to get your boards down. Look at Cowley, look at Brausinho over the years. They've gone through a shitload of boards to get your right ones, especially if you're riding customs. So I'm guessing he rides, he is in the whole Goya Quattro thing. So if he uses the boards, he's like, right, what do I need? These are the right tools. Or maybe he didn't even take some boards. Maybe he took some production boards from Japan, or, maybe there was some already there, because in Japan, remember, top 3 were on Goya. It was, Takara Ishii in 3rd.
I just love to see Antoine on a brand where he's basically building the brand. The Quattro Goya family is so big. You have Levi, you have Polakau now with them, you have Adam Warchoł, which nobody really ever mentions, but he fucking rips, man.
Yeah,
it's not only because I'm a patriot, but the guy, I saw him in the Silt warm up. I'm like, he's the best guy out there.
He goes for it, doesn't he?
he's fucking ripping, man. And in a minute, he's gonna be there too. So it's like, I just love to see Antoine as the guy, and not one of the guys. But at the same time, I understand that you don't wanna. Oh yeah, Kai Lenny too. Yeah, exactly. At the same time, you don't wanna, sometimes hustle hard in things which can be just there on your plate, like building, boards that fit you, or things like that. So I get it. I just don't like it.
I get it's got to come down to money as well. I'm sure if someone had wanted to get him, in this day and age, money does definitely talk. It's not easy being a windsurfing pro, let's say. So money does make a bit of a difference. And then if you think you can, like channel the brand a bit into what you want, because I know Antoine, he has got his own certain style and he likes certain things. So, he has to have those things. And I'm pretty sure he probably knows with Quattro and Goya, he's going to get what he wants. And maybe that's what he's looking at. You see it more with racing rather than wave sailing, because wave sailing, let's not lie, you could get a custom if you really wanted to and spray it whatever you like. And most people probably wouldn't know if they're not in the know. It happens for certain, it happens in surfing all the time. So someone's sponsored by a certain surfing brand, but they go to some spot which is very localized, and there's a local shaper who always shapes the best boards for there. There's a chance they're going to try a couple of these local shapers boards because
you get Matt Biolos for trestles, and you get Paisel for Hawaii. It's definitely, but it's just just love to
less in windsurfing because we have less specific spots, but obviously Hookkeeper is obviously glaring one of those spots.
But what do either of you guys
big up to Goya, big up to Goya Quattro if they paid him, if it was just down to the money and like that was just the best offer, then like hats off to Goya and Quattro for pulling that off despite having such a big team already. But I don't know the details, and knowing the reality of the windsurfing market, and you spend a certain amount of your revenue into marketing, and that percentage doesn't really go over a certain number, then I would assume it's not the deal of a lifetime. But I might be wrong.
Did either of you guys know actually what happened with North? Because as Maciek said, it was a good fit. You had kind of an upcoming brand, you had your star sailor. It seemed to be a good strategy, but did they just drop him because North have just gone, well, this is not worth it financially? I mean, is that essentially what's happened? Or
what I do know is the brand manager isn't there anymore, the old brand manager, and now, as far as I know, Peter Beale is taking over that brand manager role from old Peter. So there's definitely a change there. When a brand manager changes, his vision compared to the next person. And maybe I did hear, again, they're not coming onto Windsurfing TV just yet. Maybe they're pulling budget back. And I know, Antoine was on a fairly good deal with North, which is why those videos were getting made, because they were one of the main contributors. And that's the thing. As soon as you see money in the sport and you're seeing films like that, you can see how it does change things. So it would be interesting to see what videos Antoine Martin makes this year. You'd like to see him still making videos. Will they be at that level? I don't know. But I really hope he is going to still be making them. But
yeah, it was amazing.
The North
those
thing,
videos are amazing.
The North thing, I think it's worth to go even further back. The CEO of the entire group, Tees, which was an avid windsurfer, he passed away like suddenly at age 45, something.
Yeah. 45.
Yeah, it was something around my age, I seem to remember.
I met him in Sunset Beach in South Africa, just windsurfing, and he really loved windsurfing, and he always believed in windsurfing. then he suddenly just fell sick and passed away. So which was shocking. And
What?
and
How did he
then
do? What do you mean? Just what happened? What did he have? That wasn't a heart attack.
he got sick, and it turned out that he has like stage 3 cancer, like all over.
Oh. Wow, poor bugger. God, that's crazy.
So then a series of changes happened. I think there was like from T's passing to now, there was like maybe 2 or 3 brand managers.
Yeah.
And there was like, I think another CEO between the guy now and T's, there was another CEO. So the visions of the company sort of change. And, some people are more Excel people, like, okay, this is not bringing revenue, and this. So it's a really tricky situation, but I don't think they cut Antoine. Like they offered, from what I understand, they offered him a deal. Maybe it wasn't just as good, and maybe then he needed boards, and then Quattro and North wasn't an option.
Well, I think this is a perfect example. We will get Antoine Martin on the podcast, and whether he's going to give us all the details, I doubt it. But it's interesting to hear some of this stuff without having specifics. It's just interesting to understand, how people are thinking. But it'd be interesting to see if North sign anyone else. Like if they had budget to offer it to Antoine Martin, that budget might still be available. Are we going to see any late sort of people coming in? You never know.
They have Miguel Chapuis, which is another one like Adam, totally underrated guy.
Yeah, very good.
He stepped up on North and Flikka, actually. It's been interesting.
He rips. It's insane how good he is, and super nice guy. And they're really, I know from speaking to Peter Bell, I know that they're really happy with him, and they're really counting on the fact that he's going to grow, which I can see coming, although the level in waves is just something insane right now. So
maybe he's got more budget this year, which would be fair, because I know he took a bit of a leap of faith with his North deal. I don't think he'll mind me saying that. He went, you know what, it's not the best deal I could get, but I reckon I can prove myself. And that's what he did last year. And if you do that, what you hope then is the brand kind of steps up and goes, yeah, we recognize that you delivered more than we were expecting, so we're going to give you more cash. I mean, that's how you really want it to work. And I'm pretty sure that might have happened then.
Yeah. Rasmus says the most underrated guy is Baptiste, which I agree, but I don't agree, because a person winning a Fiji World Cup.
You're talking about Baptiste Clarec, is that what we're talking about?
Yeah. I don't think his I think he's properly rated. He fucking absolutely destroyed a World Cup.
Who's underrating him? I think that would be the question. I don't think I'm underrating him. The thing is, he doesn't do all the competitions. He's been focused on other things a little bit, but he's definitely not underrated. I think everyone's got a lot of respect for what he can do. He's crazy.
Yeah, he's insane. Okay, we spent like probably 30 minutes on one person, and we have.
No, but I think that's a general one. So we're only just clipping on the wave sailors. So let's have a quick look through. Arthur Rukin, again, leaving Duotone. We just have to watch this space, because he hasn't announced who he's going to sign for. If he's going to sign for anyone, we don't quite know what's happening. I mean, he's a bit more into his SUP and his SUP racing. How much effort is he putting into the wave sailing? I guess we'll, like I said, watch this space.
There's an interesting discussion in the comment. Can you bring a few comments up?
Yeah.
Rasmus and Thomas are like discussing in the comments, and it's like the most underrated guy is Baptiste. Baptiste is rated quite high. He's a very specialized rider, but he's not funded enough. He is not competing enough. To compete, you need money. And this is the evil cycle of windsurfing, that actually in the beginning you sort of need to invest, and there's such a big competition on the market that you need to tick so many boxes to make a living as a pro. You need good results, good media coverage.
Hang on. We have to define the terms making a living, because I'm pretty sure most people are not making a living. They're like scratching, because it's
Yeah.
like there are a few, but there's not so many.
Making a living means that you can put food on the table and you can pay your bills by windsurfing and windsurfing only, or things you do around windsurfing, let's say. And basically these days you need great results, you need great media, you need to be available, probably you need to be a good R&D person, like research and development. You probably need to be a nice guy on the beach to speak to customers. You probably need to do some clinics or be available. And it's kind of like, if you have a side job, you're probably only competing. And then the brands look at this and he's like, he's only competing. He's not doing all the other stuff that all the other guys are doing. So it's like an evil cycle.
It's so difficult, and you've got to sacrifice. You've got to sacrifice 100%. You have to sacrifice a lot if you want to kind of make it, unless you've got some amazing deals early on, because you're not living in the house you probably want to live in. You're not driving the van you want to drive. You're not doing all these things. You probably haven't got a house. You're probably living in your van for half the year. Like in the early stages, unless you've got, parental help or external sponsors, a lot of the time you are, I know, just speaking from my experience, and I never made it to the top. I did win a World Cup. I don't know if I mentioned that.
Yeah.
No, but you know what I mean? But you know what I mean? I was winning British stuff. I was winning this. And the money I was on, I'm not buying a house. Like I didn't buy a house like here in Portugal. I bought it when I was 40. And this was only becoming because I started to do more media stuff and doing.
Because windsurfing TV is making so much fucking money.
I was working. It was just actual work that actually did it. But windsurfing for me was nowhere near. And people say, yeah, but Ben, you weren't very good. I'm like, okay, fair enough. But I still know.
Anybody tell you? Don't make it up, Ben. Nobody told you that, Ben. You're not.
No. But in terms of like, I'm not the level of Baptiste correct or whatever. But then again, as Maciek just said, there is so many different elements of this. And we'll go on to Alessio Stillrich, because I've been telling him, the last years when he was on Simmer, and I had a good conversation with him in K-Town. I was like, dude, if you just put all your eggs in the competing basket, and we've got 3 competitions a year, there's a chance that 2 of them could be no wind or no result. And what happens if you don't get a result at the other one? If you've put all your eggs in that basket, at the end of the year, the guys are going to look and go, well, that's all they've got. So if you're doing video, if you've got your own channel, if you've built your own brand around yourself, which could be, whatever, but you're basically pumping out content and doing all the other stuff, as well as training as well and getting results. If you end up, like you explained before, Maciek, about Nico Preen, do we really give a shit if he'd have ended up 20th this year? I don't think so. Yes, it's good that he's up there and he's challenging and you get that content, but I don't think his sponsors would look at the end of the year and go, oh, Nico, terrible year for you. You were 18th. They would have just said, keep going, man, doing a good job, because it's almost he's making it relatable. And again, there's a lot of wave sailors that have a lot of spare time. And I've heard people say it before, which I totally disagree with. You don't have to train every day to do. I've seen people, look at Jager, he's had a full-time job. He does this. Once you've got that base level, to a certain degree, you're a talented rider. You've got to think of other ways that you can help it. Should it have to be like that? No. Is it like that? Yes. So you've got to figure out.
And it's like you're 23, 24, 25, and you're like, okay, do I devote myself to this slim chance of living the life that I always wanted to? Or do I, kind of maybe forgo that dream, but I'm not scared whether I'm going to put food on the table?
Yeah.
And you just need to be a bit of a lunatic, you just need to be, if I think how irresponsible I was financially, just investing every single penny of what I made into media, into fins, into foils, into coaching, like strength and conditioning coaches, like shrinks, psychologists,
Yeah.
all this, I just invested
How old are
everything I
you?
made. I'm 33 now.
Exactly. That's what I'm saying. It
No,
wasn't
but I'm not doing that anymore.
No, but that's what I'm saying.
Anymore.
It took me. You're talking about being irresponsible. It took me till I was 40 to start doing things like normally. It's mad how much sacrifice you have to make. And yes, don't get me wrong. It's not. You're still windsurfing, so it's not like it's a bad job.
Exactly.
People don't understand how much sacrifice you make.
Because sometimes I go home. Sometimes I'm like fed up with all this like financial insecurity, and I go home and I'm like, okay, now I'm gonna make money. I do a clinic, I sell all my gear, I freaking, I just hustle and try to, make money on the fringes here and there. And then after a month, I'm like unhappy because I didn't really windsurf, So it's like
then you put it all back in and go
on.
And
then you're like, fuck, actually, I'm making this money to be able to go on a strike mission to Cabo Verde or to spend my winter in Tenerife.
That was my life.
So it's just these choices. Like, we're getting philosophical here, but it's just these choices that you need. Every one of us needs to face, unless you're like mega talented, like Rauzinho or I don't know, whoever, like that just seems like had it easy, but I bet it wasn't easy, or you're a trust fund baby. Then
I was actually going to say that, like, what percentage of sailors are supported by families or just come from a wealthy background versus or self-made as sponsors? You think if you had to,
if you're 30, you think somebody's family is going to support them? No way. Well, I mean, if you're maybe 25,
no, but it's about what sort of percentages of sailors in the pro circuit are supported, like needing family support to make it happen.
Paul, what level are we talking? Because I can honestly say, like, I could
during the events.
Yeah, but it depends what level, because there's different levels.
And what discipline too, because in slalom, it does not happen that somebody's 30 and their family keeps pumping money. So I'm really surprised you say that, because you come from a more of the wave sailing world where it seems like that does happen.
I don't know. But I'm just saying, like, I have no idea. That's why I'm asking the question.
I think Paul's what he's saying is he does see some people going around the world to all these places, maybe competing, maybe sailing, and you're thinking, well, you have a rough idea of what people are getting paid sponsorship wise. You're like, well, how do you even live? Like, there's got to be some external money from somewhere. And sometimes it's not that apparent to see where it's coming from, I think. Which, again, if you've got it, I think fair play, because windsurfing is not a cheap sport. You're not getting people from the slums in South Africa suddenly finding they've got a talent for windsurfing. They might pick up a football and start playing, but they ain't picking up some windsurfing.
You say that, but the Bonaire boys.
No, but again,
they were not well off.
No, but this is 2 people in the whole sport, 3 or 4 or 5 or 6. I'm talking, look at Brazil, look at South Africa, look at Africa in general. There's a lot more coming from. You just need a football. That's all you need, and skill. With windsurfing, you need kit, you need transport, you need opportunity. There's a lot more. You've got to have money. There's going to be a few that might come from a poorer background, but essentially, we are yachties, basically. We're coming from a more wealthier background. We have to.
And there's no shame in it.
No, not at all.
No, that's the thing. Like, if your family or whoever decides to support you a bit, good luck to you. Like, it's not about having a go at anybody. I was just curious, because sometimes you see, like on Instagram, sailors, 1 week I'm in, wherever they are, Maui. Next week I'm in Tenerife. Next week I'm here. Next week I'm there. I'm like, how do they do it? Like, how does it work? But I can't imagine sponsors are paying for everything. But
no, again, I don't know everyone's personal situation. I know mine.
Yeah.
So I know in the early days, like in my 20s, my dad lent me the van and put some fuel in it every so often I could.
Mm-hmm.
And then also when I came home, because I didn't have any money, I didn't have a house or an apartment, I was allowed to stay at home for free. So my bedroom stayed the same. I come home, use the garage, you know what I mean? And I would have a base so I could then go off on these trips. A lot of the time I lived in the van, you know, around the UK, or I'd go to the Canaries, or I'd go to South Africa. I was subletting houses in South Africa to help fund, you know, like you're trying to get these little wins, but there's usually a bit of family support to a certain extent. And that's what makes it possible, because you're still living off nothing. But even with, you know, without that, having to buy the van, repair a van, do all that, that's an extra cost, which would have probably made it a real struggle. I don't know if I would have.
My deal, but because Paul was asking about on tour.
Yeah.
But let's say my deal was that I was supported until I was pursuing my education. And since I dropped out of college after year one, university after year one, that was it, you know. And I was just making ends meet, as Ben says, you know, like we were living. I remember Phil Horrocks back in the blog era. He put a picture of me and my friends loading gear of 6 people onto the roof of a rental in Cape Town, and then proceed to jump in the car in 6, you know, like. And then, as you say, like we were 2 or 3 guys that were there for the winter, and we had a house with 3 rooms, and we would, you know, rent the other rooms out to people coming and basically stay there for free, you know, so things like that. But on tour, like really on tour, the people that do the full tour in slalom, people that are over 23, 25 years old, there's 0% of people supported by their families. There's maybe people with side hustles, whatever. I know a few people that, like in Holland, for example, there's this app that there's like hustle jobs there, you know, go, I don't know, digging things that people don't necessarily want to do, like physical stuff, but paid well. So I know a few guys from Holland, they use that app, they go back home, they, I don't know, dig trenches for a week, make good money, whatever, you know. While in waves, it sounds like maybe there is more. I don't know.
Well, I don't know. What's that?
No, I was going to say it depends where you live as well. You know, like if you're living in, again, for want of a better place, if your family lives in Hawaii and they're letting you stay for free and they're letting you have I mean, that's already, you're in a good spot, aren't you? You're already like fucking living the dream. So it depends where you are, how much help you needed.
Let's just go through this list.
Yeah.
Antoine Martin's dad, I think, is a windsurf importer, right? Back in Guadeloupe. He used to be on Neil Pride JP. So obviously that made things easier because he was dealing equipment. I don't know what's his other job or whatever. Arthur Arutkin, I don't know his situation. Tim Van Dam is fighting super hard to make the tour. He's working in the Duotone Center here in Tenerife. He's, you know, really struggling to make ends meet and to do the tour. Alessio, I think I don't know, but he's also
he lives in Pozo. I mean, he lives in Pozo. He's been on in good sponsorship probably from a young age. You know, he was on the North team really early. So I mean,
he was like one of the big up and coming talents. You know, Julian doesn't come from a wealthy background. You know, Liam was sort of born into a Red Bull sponsorship, and again, I doubt, like, you know, if there wasn't any money there, that he would just fly around the world as much as he does, you know. Justina, I know for a fact that, she had, you know.
No, she's working. She's working.
Exactly.
Yeah, she's not getting from sponsorship as well. But
Takara, I don't know. Moritz, also, you know, struggling. Ricardo, he was sponsored from a young age. You know, he was kind of a beach boy in Eliaque, Venezuela, and made his, you know, so. And then Paul is a trust fund baby, and it just has a silver spoon up his ass.
That's it.
Time.
Anyway, again, we can't say, only people can say, because I don't know enough details about people, but I think we have to keep going through the list, as we said before, because what I wanted to do with this podcast was kind of try and pick out some winners and losers from this transfer market, or movers, and definitely just looking at the next two, Tim van Dam, Alessio Stillrich. The mover here is Danny Bruch, taking on a whole new side to his thing, which is the Bruch sails. So he's obviously had Bruch boards for a long time, kind of earned his craft with Starboard and Patrick D-Town, back in the day. And now he's obviously had his board brand for a few years, and now he's got his own sail brand. Now, correct me if I'm wrong, I haven't spoke to Danny about this, but I'm guessing that is Flight Sails, is it? Or is Flight Sails still going? And maybe
I think Flight Sails is still going,
okay,
but it's the same designer.
Okay.
And a very similar sail at the moment, and then maybe those development paths will just go their separate ways. I think Alessio is a really good topic because last year he was heading straight to the podium in Pozo. I've never seen him sail so good, focused, busting out like doubles the first run of every heat. And then I think in the round before the quarters, or in the quarters, he busted one of those doubles, over-rotated slightly, and broke his foot.
Yeah, it was
and
massive.
This was like, I just got chills talking about it, because it was a guy that was sort of pinpointed to be the next big thing in windsurfing, got injured quite a few times, came back super strong. I mean, the guy, and on the wave, he was flowing, goiters, good turns, like sailing, amazing. Right at that time when you make or break your career. I don't know how old Alessio is. I think like 26, 7.
Yeah.
And then he breaks his foot. And I know how, I know that he was, struggling mentally with that, because who doesn't? I mean, you put your mind into it, you fucking sailed like unbelievably, and then this happens. And I really hope that this new sponsorship is another fresh start, because there's been like probably 2 or 3 of them for Alessio, and he made
let's go from the beginning. I mean, Alessio has been sponsored by North and Duotone stuff since the beginning. And this is the elephant in the room. Someone just mentioned about elephant in the room. The problem is, then Mark Paré came into that Duotone team, and Alessio Stillrich went out. So Mark Paré moved from Simmerstyle to Duotone, and at that point, they let go of Alessio Stillrich. They were supporting him, hoping he was going to be that next big thing. For them, he didn't quite make it. So I then said to Simmerstyle, you know what? I think, they were looking for someone. And I'm like, you know what, Alessio, I think he could be the guy. He's one of the most talented sailors I know. Like, he picks up stuff. I've been trying to motivate him a bit, because sometimes, he has his moments. But in terms of talent, the guy is fucking like on it. So then he came on to Simmerstyle. He had, 5 years with Simmerstyle? It's probably quite a while. But then Mark Paré, obviously, famously gets dropped by Duotone, out the blue. Again, I'm a big friend of Mark. I know the talent Mark's got, and I'm saying to Simmer, look, you got to move some stuff to get this guy. You're not going to get an opportunity again. Mark's still very much associated with Simmer. Like, he gets on with it, and I don't mean to say this, and people will laugh, but that whole family thing. But Mark is really in with Thomas Pearson, who's the main man behind the scenes, Peter and Nora, all the sort of family there. So it fits. He always has been on Simmer from a young age. So then that opportunity came up. Simmer were like, it was tough times then. That last 2 years for most of the brands has been tough. But I think in every industry, mountain biking, everything, it's been really tough. So they were like, fuck, what do we do here? So they had to move some stuff around to get Mark in. They get Mark in, but it's tight. Probably thinking, we can't just get Mark in and drop Alessio. I'm paraphrasing a bit, because I don't know the exact things, but this is what I'm thinking. They don't want to do what, let's say, a Duotone looked like they did, which is that late drop. Mark got dropped right at the end of the season. If they'd have then took Mark and then dropped Alessio out the blue, wouldn't have been a great thing. But they were thinking, okay, maybe we can keep them both on. They've also got to pay me, which, you know, I'm worth millions, obviously. So, you know, they've got a few people on the team coming into summer. You know, obviously Mark has a hell of a summer. You know, he doesn't. He gets injured. So he gets injured, but then comes back super strong, wins 2 events in a row, you know, and he's rocking. If you win events, you take money. You know, there's bonuses, there's all this sort of stuff. Alessio, again, sailing out of his skin, looking super good in Pozo. You know, like a changed man. He'd been doing some video stuff. He's, you know, really, I thought he was looking really good, but then obviously gets injured. And then at the end of the year, there's decisions to make. As far as I knew it, I thought Alessio was staying on Simmer, but there probably would have been a drop. And it was how he was going to, you know, would he accept the drop? Would he not accept the drop? Because when you take Mark on, you know, no disrespect to Alessio, but he's just won 2 events. He is the guy they're looking at for a world title. And, you know, something had to give at the end of the year. I'm not sure what happened at the end of the year, how the communication broke down, because I thought he was going to stay on. And then the first I knew of it was really when I was seeing the social media stuff coming out from Alessio, and I was like, ooh. But as I said to him, I messaged him.
I have a quote. I want to announce that I won't be riding or representing my previous sponsor and would appreciate to not be associated as one of the people involved in the brand. Thank you and good luck.
Yeah, so I saw that and I messaged him straight away. I said, look, dude, for me, I don't know what's gone on with you guys, but they have supported you for 5 years. People have to remember that. It was the same with Ricardo. I thought the same thing when he basically dug Naish out. And you're thinking, well, your contract was ending at the end of the year. You might not like it, and maybe they didn't do it the right way, but it's still, they've paid you what you're worth or what you wanted for the last whatever years. I think personally, again, everyone's got their own take on this. I would go, okay, we did, you know, there was if you want to look good for another sponsor, you don't want to be digging out the sponsor that's just supported you for 5 years or 3 years or whatever.
Well, unless they don't pay you and you
but that's not the
hard
case.
time.
But that's not the case.
Hard time getting money back. I'm just saying this exists. I don't want to get into
it. But for me, yeah, no, that's a different story. But if they've paid you, everything's up to date, you know, and everything's agreed, but they don't sign a new contract or you don't get an agreement. Again, I don't know the details, but I personally think it's better to go out nice, because the next company that are looking for a new rider, if you're there digging out some brand, if they haven't paid you, it's different. But if you're digging out a brand because they haven't supported you, whatever, it doesn't look good. It's just for me, it's just you're going to get judged. But again, at the end of whatever it is, he's now signed for Bruch, which I think is also a good fit, you know. And like you said, do you want to be playing second fiddle to the top rider? Which, again, no disrespect to Alessio, I think he's got the skills to be one of the top riders. And he is one of the top riders, but I think he can go up another level. And again, I've told him this as well. I genuinely think he's got the skills to do it. So if he's in the Simmer team now, he's below Mark in the pecking order. What you said about Antoine joining Goya, you know, why would he want to be below Brasilio? Why doesn't he make it on his own? And I think this is a good case for Alessio, which it could be a good thing for him to be on a brand, which he is the top dog. You know, he is the guy they're looking at to put those results down, you know, to get that exposure. He is the one that's getting all the limelight. And I think,
and such a sliding doors moment, like that injury. Imagine he lands that double perfect like all the other heats and he wins Pozo. And Mark, don't forget, is injured at the time.
Yes, totally.
So it's just like, it breaks my heart to like think about these things, you know, like how.
But also there is some other stuff which I can't totally say on here, but you know, again, like all this stuff that you see, it's never as clean or as easy as it sometimes looks. You know what it's like. It's like some people are like, yeah, but that, and you're like, yeah, but if you only knew this detail, but some details you can't always give out, you know. But it's true, and you don't know, like, you know, Mark to win 2 competitions after coming back from injury. Who saw that coming? Like, you know, he's good, but to win 2 and to win, you know, like they're pretty pretty big moves, pretty big moments.
Yeah.
So anyway, it's an interesting one. Again, when I saw, I think I even said to you, I could be wrong, but I'm pretty sure I said you should maybe give Bruch a go, because it is interesting, because from what I've understood, the guy who's supporting the Tenerife event, Javi, from the hotel Player Surf, or however we say it these days, Player Surf.
I don't know, because it's Playa Sur.
I know, but the hotel
South
is Playa
Beach,
Surf with
but
an
then
F.
there's an F added,
Exactly.
like in a different font.
So I'm not sure. I'm calling it Playa Surf anyway. But in Tenerife, the guy who's bought that hotel and has got the windsurfing sort of rental center there, he supported a lot of good chunk, as far as I understand it, into the World Cup happening. It's now a 5-star this year, and he's definitely investing, or he's got something to be said with Bruch at the moment, because I've got contact with them doing something with Windsurfing TV, and he is mad keen windsurfer, fully behind windsurfing, which can only be a good thing.
That's a question I was going to have. Is because he's a keen windsurfer, is it? That's why he's investing all his money. I don't think he'll mind me saying this, but his main projects, the ones that is doing the big, is these hotels or hotel in Ibiza. There's like a big thing that he's got going on over there, and this one is like the sort of, I get to say a hotel's a side project, but it's kind of his little kind of side hustle, which he is a keen windsurfer. It's a great position. He's obviously got the school, and he doesn't windsurf in Ibiza. When I spoke to him, he only
the Maslow pyramid. Like, you have the basic needs, and then at the very top you have like self
actualization.
So that's that for him. Like just doing good stuff in windsurfing and around windsurfing is like his dream, his his kind of way of feeling just great about life, so that's really
he seems
really
like a top guy. I mean, obviously I've had a lot of dealing with him, but he just comes across like a fucking guy you want to be friends. Like, he's just a nice guy. He seems super.
I wanna address one comment from Rasmus. In a professional sport, there is scouting for the young talents, like in surfing or football, so that parents don't have to pay. Rasmus, I'm sorry to break it down to you, but even in football, parents still pay the academy, big money actually, for the kids. Parents still have to, if the kid got to go to Barcelona, the academy is not paying for his apartment there. And surfing, there is guys on the WSL World Tour which are not sponsored, which make it off of prize money and which have side hustles. And on the qualifying tour, which is the step below, there's basically nobody which is making a living out of surfing. So you're unfortunately very wrong, my friend.
I think a lot of professional sports are struggling at the moment. We're not talking about football at the top levels, but I'm talking about the smaller sports. I think sponsorship is getting tougher. Within surfing, I guess the clothing stuff like Quicksilver, Billabong, maybe they're selling a lot less stuff now than they used to. They were the ones with the big money back in the day. And I think the way fashion has gone and the way clothes are available everywhere and certain styles are available everywhere, I guess they took a big hit, and that was where most of the money comes from. If you listen to that Stab in the Dark, like the Stab Premium one, where it's talking about board brands basically that sponsor surfers, and some of them, not all of them, but a lot of them don't pay the surfers. They just make them the tools, make them the boards to compete, which sounds a lovely idea. But in windsurfing, it's kind of a kit monster type sport, which we are reliant on the brands for the kit, which is not always the way in other, companies. And because we're so small, it's hard to attract the external sponsors unless it's kind of like a passion project from some guys who's got a business and they're keen windsurfers and they want to almost sugar daddy a few people, or they want to give something back and see someone progress with their money. But it's very rare that you're getting that type of money or exposure back, which would propel your business, let's say?
What happens in the big sports, and let's call surfing it's a much bigger sport than windsurfing. What happens is there's no middle class anymore. So you have people who get paid, a very handful of people that get paid insanely well. And then like no middle class, and then people who are struggling. And actually in other sports, like even in basketball, which the place I come from is a basketball place, and I know a few of the Polish professional basketball players, like they're complaining. They're getting paid what they were getting paid 10 years ago, the same. The cost of living has tripled. The NBA guys are making insane amount of money, but this is like the top of the top, and anything below that, it's So in windsurfing is like the top of the top actually gets paid. Then there's no middle class, and then
it's tough. I reckon it's tough. So just going back to the list, we're gonna have to go through this. We haven't got very far here. Julian Salmon, I didn't see that one coming personally. I did hear rumors of him going to Duotone, and then out of the blue, actually, Mark told me. He says you can't tell anyone. I didn't tell anyone, but I kind of knew a bit earlier. He was on Naish, and I heard some stuff from Australia that he was on Naish over there. So who saw that coming? Obviously it's kind of like the big one, which was they dropped Ricardo Campello when the new owners came into Naish, which seemed a crazy move for me, because I thought Ricardo was doing a really good job for putting Naish back in a place where you were kind of thinking, I could see them. They stepped up for me. I really thought that with Ricardo. I really thought they put him back in people's minds as a brand to maybe want again. And maybe I'm doing them an injustice, but just me personally, like I thought they disappeared and they weren't really. I didn't feel like I wanted to be riding them if I put myself in a normal position. But then after Ricardo, I thought, you're back in the game here. And then the new people came in, bought Naish, dropped Ricardo, which is their prerogative. They can do what they want. Obviously, Ricardo had quite a famous sort of online spat with them. And then they they dropped also Windsurfing TV. They were like, no, we're not doing anything. So they kind of pulled everything back. And then they've reassessed after a year. Was it 2 years or a year? And then obviously they thought they need another high-profile rider. And they've gone in the market for Julian Salmon. What's your thoughts on that, boys?
I love it. To add to the whole story, it's like if you're into team sports, there's this thing called new owner syndrome, where the owner buys the team and he's like immediately wants to make some moves. Whether it's cutting a player, trading a player. He has his ideas and he wants to implement them. And Kubus Sports, so these guys, it's a big sporting group. They own Pro Limit, but they own also a lot of other sporting stuff, mountain bike, snowboarding, whatever brands, So they bought Naish, and they probably looked at, the Excel sheet, and they're like, whoa, this is our biggest cost, this rider. Let's cut him, And then a year passes and you're like, oh shit, we actually need riders, So, and this really surprised me with Julian, because in Japan, a person working for Duotone told me that they signed Julian Salmon. And exactly. Julian was in Australia, in Naarlu, still riding with his old stuff. And I texted him, no Duotone yet? And he kind of replied with his smiling, laughing emojis. Like, I was like, strange. And then they announced Liam. Because that person, that insider, Duotone insider, he told me like, he or she told me like, we signed Julian and there might be another rider.
Another one.
That's what I heard. So then something.
That's what I heard. I was like,
changed. And this shows you how tricky this game is and how fickle, and and how, you know, this musical game of musical chairs. But Julian on Naish is exactly what I wanted to see from what we were talking about with Antoine.
Mhm.
He's going to be the top dog. He's probably one of the top, you know, 3 most stylish windsurfers out there, top 3, top 5. His Australia stuff is amazing, courtesy of Mr. Van Bellen as well. And yeah, it was great. It's a great, you
He
know.
was on Gun and Bruch, which was his own thing as well. Would you have been disappointed if he'd have gone to Duotone?
Well, if he was the only one, no. But
Oh.
with Liam there, and Victor's obviously there, and Victor had like an insane winter in Cabo Verde as well, just busting out content after content. And yeah, so you know, so it's I don't know. Yeah, probably I would be. Yeah.
I think it's interesting because you didn't see it coming. That's why it's interesting. It's like what you mentioned, Antoine Martin going to maybe Exocet and Loft. If that had happened, it would have been almost bigger news because it's like, you know, I didn't see that coming. And it's kind of like, oh, I wonder what he's going to. And then you're like, well, what boards have Exocet got? Because to be fair, because they haven't got any riders, you know, to the people who follow the tour and the riders, you don't kind of pay as much attention. Like if you're maybe a normal guy and they've got Exocet in your local shop, or you're France and you're, you know, maybe you've got more education, you know more about Exocet stuff. But I think having a rider, having a top profile rider, you do then suddenly start, especially if they're ripping, you're like, well, what board is that? What sail are they on? You know, you start looking, and it does. Again, it happened with Naish, with Ricardo. I think Ricardo definitely put them back on the map. And then Julian, I was surprised when they got rid of him, but they got rid of him. And then Julian has pretty much done the same thing. And I said to Paul the other day, your drone footage has made a massive difference for the impact of him going to Naish. You know, I think anyway, because some of that footage, I mean, he's ripping, obviously, but also the footage and how it's captured just elevates it to next level. Like I've been looking, going, wow, Jesus, that looks pretty slick. So, yeah, I think they've done well with that. I hope they.
Yeah, you know, and I think a lot of the European-based riders, they get, you know, maybe unfairly labeled as not so attractive image-wise as the, you know, riders that maybe live in Maui or in the Caribbean or whatever. And so this was really cool, like Julian in this, you know, location, which actually Australia is also like doesn't get enough footage out of. You don't see enough out of. So it was super cool to see, like, you know, Julian just absolutely ripping in Oz. I mean, some of the hit, like the Margaret River 360s and air takas, and I've been to, it doesn't look like much, but I've been to that wave, and trust me, it's fucking scary. And the guy just shows up and hits it like it's Cabezo in Tenerife, you know.
Yeah. I'm going to quickly fly through these. I want to get into the racing. I know that's almost like a separate podcast, but Nagoshi, we talked about him. He's a young up and coming rider. I always thought he was on Starboard, so maybe he's just signed a more international deal. Like he's
Sorry, that's a good comment. There's a big difference in being photogenic. Germans and other northern guys, which I take to heart, are just white. They don't look good on photos. Thank you.
I always remember the story from the JP team in Maui, because Martin Bradner was like sending them emails basically saying, you've got to get a tan. And then we had Phil Horrocks. Everyone else is like pop off, muscles, showing off their tan in the picture, looking really serious. And then Horrocks is there in his t-shirt because he had these crazy like farmer tan lines, and it's just like they wouldn't allow him to have no top
awesome.
on.
I think Martin wouldn't mind the story, and I hope Malte Reuscher wouldn't mind that story as well. Malte Reuscher, if anybody's seen him shirtless, is quite a hairy guy. Like, you know, there's a lot of testosterone there, I guess, you know. And And Martin is like super serious, you know, like mega like focused and stuff. And he's telling Malte, like, you know, for the photo shoot, you have to look clean, you know, like, I don't know if he told him to shave his chest or whatever, but Malte's there laying in the team house back when for a photo shoot, you used to get a team house, on the couch with his shirt off, just, you know, like hairy everywhere. And it's like, and Martin comes in, like first thing he sees is Malte, and he's like, Malte, where's your like, why aren't wearing anything? Where's your t-shirt? And Malte with his Italian accent, he's like, Martin, my sorry, I spoiled it already. It's like, my t-shirt is there, the green one, Martingo, relax. It's like, you have to know the two personalities is like a clash of. Anyway, enough of tantrums from my side. Sorry, keep going. But
yeah, anyway, we talked about Liam Dunkerbeck. That was kind of a big move for Duotone. You know, they've got him as their new up and coming rider.
That was a bit of a surprise too, because you just, I don't know, Severne and Dunkerbeck. I thought that was a pretty solid match.
And Liam's been on them, as he said in the podcast the other day, since he was nothing, you know, like since he was tiny. And listening to him on the podcast, I thought it was quite nice. He said, look, there was no hard feelings. There was nothing. It was just a business decision or a change of direction, whatever it was. There was nothing bad going on. He just maybe felt like a change and the offer came in. It was decent. But I think Starboard Severne still offered him a pretty decent deal. He just decided to go a different route. Could be, as we said on the podcast, maybe to kind of separate himself a little bit from his dad, be his own person, build his own name. You know, Victor Fernandez still right up there in the top 3 last year, but he's getting older. You know, he's probably touching 40 now. They do need some talent coming up. They got rid of Mark Paré the other year. So yeah, Liam Dunkerbeck is going to be that guy, and yeah, with a name like Dunkerbeck, who would bet against that?
I've got a question for you, being the sort of amateur in the group here. But Maciek, when a sailor of especially a high stature gets aligned with a brand, I'm assuming they have to sign a contract of some kind. And what I'm curious as well is, in that contract, what are the standard points in there that a sailor will need to abide by in the contract? You know, for example, you know, as the contract say, they have to do, you know, 2 social media posts a month, and they have to do A, B, and C. Or, I mean, more like can you divulge, like, what is a standard sort of thing, you know, for a sailor?
Yeah, there's obviously things, exclusivity closures. You can't really be seen on other gear. This could be a reason to actually terminate your, you know, if you're seen on whatever, you know, if you're seen on other gear. There's a certain amount of social media posts that you have to do, sometimes a certain amount of written articles that you need to do. There's an availability, normally there's an availability a closure that you need to be available for a certain amount of days for either R&D or marketing purposes.
Or photo shoot,
yeah, which is a marketing purpose. So like free of charge. So basically you have an amount of days that, you know, that you make yourself available free of charge, which back in the day it used to be a small amount, and then people were charging for test days. Now you're generally getting your expenses paid, and that's it. There's what else is there? There's obviously but Paul asked what you have to do for the brand. There's obviously a list of events which you have to attend. And for me, for example, it's always been the full PWA tour. Most of the times it's been the Defi Wind. Sometimes there has been some IFCA events in there. So if you're a wave sailor, you'll probably get, you know, the PWA 5-star events, and then maybe, you know, maybe one 4-star of your choice or something, you know. So things of that nature.
Sorry,
Yeah.
what about Mango Tree says you have to insist your new gear planes faster, even if it doesn't.
Yeah.
Sorry.
Yeah, so there's that, there's that, and sometimes there's some extracurricular stuff which you do outside of your contract.
But not everyone has that type of contract. I mean,
Really?
I don't.
Yeah.
I've never had done.
You?
Everyone's got different ones. I think it depends on how much the brand's got confidence in you to deliver. Like, I know people's contracts have changed. If I took it within Simmer of certain people, whereas their contract was quite open to interpretation of certain things, and then actually as the contract went on, it changed to be very much more specific. You have to do this per month, for this, and this to make sure someone does it.
I always thought it's just to keep it sort of clean and really,
I think it is. I think.
But now you're telling me that it's because brands don't actually trust me.
I didn't say that. I said for me, maybe I'm different because,
Well, you are different, Benny. You're not doing like the world tour thing, are you?
No, because but it was interesting. I've said this before, but
but you know what I mean. Like, but you're not.
I mean, that's
no. I know you were, but I'm saying right now, it's not like you're doing all the 5-star wave events or anything.
Yeah, but I'm just saying the contract hasn't changed really. Like, I mean? Again, it depends on what you want. I think it is good to have specifics because then you know where you stand, and then if you want to be a good sponsored rider, you deliver more. Because if you deliver more, then at the end of the year, as I tell a lot of the guys that have asked me about sponsorship and stuff, what you need to do, this is my tip for anyone, is make the guy who makes that team choice at the end of the year. If you make this guy's job, because he's usually the marketing guy or whatever, if you make this guy's job easy and you are accessible and you're giving stuff and you are helping make their life easier, when they come to put the names on the team sheet at the end of the year, you want them to go, fuck, that guy was fucking helping me a ton. Either he's got loads of good results, he sent me all the pictures, he gave me videos, he did this. It's like, it's just so much easier for them to then go, well, who are we going to cut this year? You don't want to be now at the bottom of that list because you're going to be first.
And now we're getting to where like we have a lot of internal discussions with the sailors with like, for example, you said do more than your contract. And I would advise the riders, like, do what's in your contract, because if you do more, then why would they pay you more when you do more?
No, but I'll tell you why.
I mean?
Okay, so this is a totally different approach, and it's worked for me over the years. But what I tend to do is get a base contract or whatever it is. Then I deliver whatever I'm going to deliver. And then you've got something to say, look, you can start off like this. You basically say, I want to get paid this much money and I can do this much. But if it's the first year, pay me this much. And then at the end of this year, you can pay me based on what I've done in the last year. So you are still having a contract for the next year, but they're able to base it off what you did the first year. So
for sure, if it's your first year, but
well, even if it's not your first year, some sponsorship, it's like you do the first year for free, which people blows their mind. But when you're young, if you do the first year for free, but you tell them you're going to start paying you, but you pay me up front for the next year, but you base it off this year. So you're literally getting paid at the end of the year. You know, you've got to have trust on both sides here, and you have to want to work towards getting paid. So then they never lose, because then they're like, well, we only pay them for what you've done.
So to me, maybe the better way would be like saying incentivizing, right? So look, guys, this is my base, but I can also do this, and this, and then, you know, pay me a small amount per video that I offset my, you know what I mean? If the video reaches 10,000 views, for example, pay me a small amount, you know. But the thing, like, for example, the older sailors say that our generation is doing too much for too little.
Yeah, and but that's the world we live in, Maciek. Like, I'm not saying it's an ideal situation, but it's a fucking good job, really. Like, if you can get enough money to live windsurfing, I know it's a lot of work, because I know how much work I do, but I still would rather do this work than other shitty work.
And I think that's exactly why we're all doing this, because we love it.
No, but that's what I mean. I don't mind putting in the work because it's kind of enjoyable. But I know if you deliver more than's in your contract, then when you get to the end of the year, because we're not in a very flush industry where people are getting, whatever. You're just trying to keep your job right now. So if you want to keep your job, if you over deliver, you're going to be first on that sheet. And that's what I'm talking about, which is maybe a bad thing for the guys coming up because they're like, Jesus, we're going to do all this work. But this is my mentality for how
I think it's more like for the guys that are established, because they're like, we need to hustle like we're 18-year-olds and probably get paid less than we were getting paid 10 years ago. So that's kind of
but I
then
think
so at the end of your so at the end of your list, right on top of Mr. Van Bellen, which is obviously the biggest star of the list, there's a smaller star, Ricardo Campello, who said, look, my work is worth this much and I'm not leaving my house for less. And you have to have the utmost respect for that, because it's basically your, like the value of your time.
Okay, but it depends who we're talking about, because some people go, yeah, right, stay in your house then. So see you later.
Okay, but at the same time, you saw him in Pozo and Tenerife. He kind of,
But this is what my next point is. I think the brands are the ones we need to help, because that's the base of our industry. I do believe this. And where we should be making the money, if we're going to live from it, is outside of that. Because if you really think the brands are making a fortune right now, I think everyone's mistaken. They're not. They're just not. Like, some brands are making money, but they need to make money. Like, event organizers need to make money, but there is other opportunities to make money, which is harder to get into, but that's where the money hasn't got this like worth that it has now. Like, I've seen the change in the industry since I've been in it, and I know the brands are not making as much money as they were. Like, if they were, I no problem, people would be getting paid more and it would be easy.
Yeah, but I think you have to split those things, because the brands, you will help the brands, but the brands, I don't know how, like, the brands, they wanna, this is my biggest pet peeve with windsurfing, professional windsurfing in general. I don't see a big push to grow the sport from
I'd agree with that.
From riders, from brands, from media, from whatever. Like, I don't know if I know one grassroots like program off the top of my head. Now I'm thinking of Alex Tilo in Miami.
The guys that are doing it are doing a good job. Maybe this is a separate podcast though, but I totally agree with you.
But we keep I really don't want to shit in my own nest, because I've done this too many times and it always backfired. But we're just like, we're focused on, brand X is focused on making better market share than brand Y, than brand Z, whatever, while the market
not making the whole thing bigger.
Exactly.
Yeah, totally agree. I agree with that. I think that is it's a bigger topic, a bigger subject, and it definitely needs addressing, because people say, oh, windsurfing is not as popular, but it doesn't take away how fucking good windsurfing is. Maybe it's not popular, but why is that? And there is a lot of aspects to it that need to be answered, but at the same time, it's still, and I know people who haven't windsurfed and they try it, and there's only a certain percentage of, if you take 100 people, there's only a certain percentage of them that can be windsurfers, because it takes a certain the mindset and how they are. But the people that will become windsurfers will be windsurfers for life. It's like that kind of thing. But again, you've got to get people into sport, and they have to have access to it. without access to it and without the fun factor. I've seen some stuff from Tatiana Howard, like she just sent me some stuff from Maui saying, seems super excited they started to get people, because a lot of our generation now are having kids or had kids and they're getting older. And this is the next one. I feel like we've skipped a big chunk. I feel like this next one could be a bit of a move coming up. Could be wrong.
Yeah, but collectively,
Paul's not doing his job, really. I mean, he needs to pop out a couple of.
I'm doing my bit. Yeah, no, actually, it's funny. I see it in Australia. There's been some really dedicated people in Western Australia that have made a huge push over the last 5 to 10 years to get young people into it. And there's actually a solid generation of young sailors coming through. Just even on my own little way, you talk about, brands making the pie bigger. I have 2 female friends here who, one of them, I said, you should give windsurfing a go. They grew up in Geraldton. They never windsurfed before. There's plenty of people that grow up in Geraldton, one of the world's best windsurfing places, and they've never tried windsurfing because it's just not, I don't know. They never thought about it. So I said, you've got to go down to Coronation. It's like you live in Geraldton, you're looking for things to do. Anyway, took one of the girls down there, like not this season, the last season before. Wasn't even sure she'd like it. And now she's super hooked. Her sister's gotten into it. They're both like just...
Are we talking about windsurfing? Sorry. Yeah, I was just checking.
What do you think we're talking about?
I'm joking. I'm joking.
Why is Maciek laughing? What did I say?
Nothing.
No, I started giggling about the comments, but then you went like, they liked it a lot. They came back for more.
Oh God. That's another podcast. That's another podcast. Here I am. I'm trying to
I was listening.
Maciek.
Sorry.
No, but anyway, so these girls, they're so into windsurfing now. And today I was talking about, them buying a new boom and blah, 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 gear they need. And there's just 2 new people that all of a sudden are going to buy a boom. I mean, they're not buying everything at once, because that's the other issue, isn't it? Like, one thing I've realized when you're getting someone into windsurfing is like they're at that stage where you're like, okay, they want to buy a rig and a board, but it's quite hard unless you've got a lot of money to buy everything at once. Yeah. You have to buy it in pieces, don't you? Because the problem is, like, they said to me, well, what should we get, Paul? And I said, like, there's a boom. I said, well, you've got 2 choices. You've got an aluminium boom or carbon boom. But as all of us know, who the hell wants to use an
Well, when you're learning.
No. But what I'm saying is they're at that stage now where they're getting to water starting, and you sort of think, well, you could buy the aluminium boom, but if you get the carbon boom and look after it, you'll have that for 5, 6, 7, 8 years. You know what I mean? Like, they last a long time, a bit of an investment, but it's all these little pieces. Huh?
I think the club version, when I go to other countries, I went to Denmark, and all the gear's just in this club, and you join the club, and it's basically subsidized by the government a little bit. They put in because they want people to do stuff. And this seemed to be amazing. And people donate gear to it and whatever. And it's got a shed basically on the beach where they can just come and grab the gear if they're a member. But you realize, like, how many people live in Geraldton? This is the crazy thing about
it was 35,000.
Exactly. And you think, imagine we just have a massive, if you just took a school's worth of people, how many more windsurfers there would be and how much more gear would be sold.
But the thing is too, it is crazy, like, because every time you think about it, a keen windsurfer, I don't know, how much are they spending a year on windsurf gear on average? A few $1,000s, quite a few $1,000s if you average it out. They buy a new quiver every 2, 3, 4 years, or boards or whatever they're buying. So every time you get somebody new into the sport, it's over decades, it's quite a lot of money. Yeah. Like, that's invested back into the sport, isn't it? And it's something I just realized lately. It's like, I think a lot of people think, if I just get one other person in, what's the big deal? But it makes a big difference. Just every single person that gets into the sport is quite a big thing. Like,
I will never forget what Graham Ezzy told me once. And normally I don't understand half of the stuff he says because he's like a literature major, from some Ivy League university. So our levels of English are not exactly the same. But he told me once, like, what is the best way to popularize windsurfing? Just teach 2 people to windsurf, and the sport will be 3 times bigger.
Yeah,
It's like it's that simple. Yeah.
Well, maybe. Well, you know how they have these fundraisers each. There'll be like Movember. You got to grow a moustache in November, or you got to do. Maybe there's something like a push like that. Could be a month in windsurfing where they basically it's a month where we all just push everyone out there to go. Look, this is the month to actually. I mean, I know it sounds a bit weird, but that sort of you need some kind of thing like that, because then it just becomes a thing.
Yeah.
Because,
almost like you need some like a meter like goes up where you kind of feel like you're trying to achieve a target, because like it needs a goal, let's say, and it could be a small goal, but let's say we need 1,000 windsurfers to be an extra 1,000 windsurfers, which is not a lot, but it's actually a freaking lot. Because if 1,000 windsurfers, that's an extra 1,000 boards that will be bought, and that's just 1,000. And you think between us, surely we could be able to do it. Like just setting yourself. Maybe I need to do it with Windsurfing TV. It's like we have this kind of like a fundraiser, but it's not. It's a windsurfer.
Yeah.
I don't know. No, I think
we did a month starting with W, right? Like. Like you have Windsurfing Wednesday or whatever, like
August.
Yeah, August.
But honestly, it's. I mean, I've heard people talk about we've got to support the brands, or we have to support the events, we have to do this and that. At the end of the day, it all comes down to the participants. You need the participants. Yeah. They're the ones spending the money. Like the brands are not there if the windsurfers aren't there. That's where it all starts. That's the bottom of the pyramid right there, isn't it? It's
okay, we need to start a movement. Like as a windsurfer, you're not allowed to go windsurfing. Maybe that's it. There's like this rule that you're not allowed to go windsurfing unless you have brought another person into the sport. Like you are literally not allowed. Like you have to be accredited, and a windsurfer has to say, yes, I was taught by this guy. Otherwise, that's it. And I'll go around checking at the beach. You have to go in and say, oh,
yeah. Okay, Ernst is saying, should we get back on topic?
Yes.
Should. We're like the worst.
Oh God, we're not going to. I'm just going to rip through this list. Schnatty is going on to Flikka boards. I think she's been.
Sorry, before you quickly go off that, there was a comment before. Sorry, from someone.
I'm going to go
about Flikka, right?
I need to.
It's about Flikka. It's about Flikka.
That they seem to sponsor a lot of people, and whether.
Yeah. Sorry, where is that comment?
Getting paid, or
they don't support the channel, so we're not going to talk too much about them.
Yeah,
sorry.
I think there's a certain appeal to having tailor-made equipment. That's what I'm.
There it is.
Gaspar,
there you are, mate. Sorry, we wasn't ignoring you. Okay, sorry. So we've addressed that.
Yeah, there's an appeal to having tailor-made equipment, and what deals Flikka is handing out, no idea.
Well, there's depends who we're talking about. I'm not getting onto it. Right, Takara Ishii. RRD, I've got to say, before we go any further, RRD, I don't think they've got any riders. Have they left? Have they got, who have they got? Like they seem to be one of the losers. Huh?
Baptiste.
Okay, Baptiste, correct. So they've lost their racer. They've lost Takara Ishii. That's quite a chunk of their whole kind of team, which I'd say they're definitely one of the losers of the transfer.
Do they support Windsurfing TV?
No, they don't.
So we can rip them apart.
No, but again, I'm willing to point out people. I think Starboard are definitely one of the losers of the transfer window.
Look,
they support
a brand like RRD, Roberto Ricci designs a windsurfer, a guy who's been competing, who's been through the whole thing, started as a garage brand, turned into a multi-million-dollar company.
Hang on.
I think it's your your responsibility to sponsor somebody. That's all I'm going to say.
I mean, they do sponsor someone, but they definitely lost a lot of ground. In racing over the years, they were one of the heavy hitters, like Antoine Albo. I mean, Finian Maynard, Arnon, I could name loads of them, but they lost their way in the racing. And then now the wave sailing, it's the winging they started to go into, and then they lost all that. It just seems strange from the outside. But then looking at the comments, Obenini, whatever, it says RRD seemed to get sold. There was an article in the Italian news. So I don't know what that means. It could mean, because I know he does put out half of the business to the clothing thing and do. So I don't know what that's not based off facts. That's a comment in this podcast. So don't be saying, "Oh, Ben said RRD's getting sold." I don't know anything. I'm just reading.
Don't aggregate it.
Yeah, Hayata Ishii. I mean, Hayata rips him and Baptiste. I mean, it's a good team, that is, in terms of wave sailing. They're both, interesting. And exciting riders for sure.
Whenever I hear you say Baptiste, so it always reminds me of being in Fiji, because I used to call Baptiste, and the Baptiste came up to me and goes, "Paul, it's a silent P. It's not Baptiste, it's Baptiste."
Yeah, but he's French.
So no.
I agree, but it's
he told me that, huh? Yeah, Baptiste. I know, but just to.
Yeah, it's a valid point, and I should listen because I'm repeating everybody's.
Oh, it's no big deal. I just thought he told me that, so I'm just passing it on.
Okay, it's a silent P in French, but is it a silent P in every other language? That's the question. It's difficult. Moritz Mal, obviously, he was on Simmer in the summer, but I put him in there because it was interesting that he signed and Alessio left. You know what I mean? So I just put that in. Ricardo, again, massive question marks. What's your take on Ricardo Campello? Are we going to see him with a different sponsor this year? Will he still be using the Neil Pride sales that he secured last year? But that was almost, from what I heard, like a one-event deal, which is kind of crazy, but it was a one-event deal. He's got no real reason to have to use the sales. I guess he's got them now, unless he gets a different deal from someone else. Boards, who knows? But it's interesting. Right, that's it. Wave sailing. Moving on to some racing. John Sukas has gone from RRD to Challenger. Is he going to stay on RRD boards? Maciek, do you know?
No, he's not going to stay on RRD boards.
Okay.
I don't know what he's going to use and if he has a board sponsor or not. Okay. I think he's one of the guys that really wants to make a career, and he's super motivated and he really wants results, and he basically decided that that he wants to have really good gear, give it a shot, and and just have fun that way. I think RD he just wanted to be more part of it, get paid more, or get paid and be more part of the whole thing. And he was helping John Sky with the development a lot already, and he was in there, so it was a really good partnership. But I think John wanted to take it to the next level, and RD didn't, which is a shame. Yeah, because as I said, I think RD, when they were successful, like when they signed Antoine, they sold all their slalom boards that they had on stock within like a month. So it shows you that when racing is going good, it sells equipment. Yeah.
For people who don't know, John Sukas is the guy from Greece. He's been racing RD last year. And interesting going for Challenger, and Challenger have got some pretty good heritage in terms of, you got your title with Challenger, Benedetti, right, fucking smashing it, but interestingly, you all left Challenger to go other places. So he has obviously seen this. I mean, maybe there's other people at Challenger, but be interesting to see how he gets on this year. Will it make a difference to his results? He's, like I say, one of the young guys coming through.
He's got some balls on him.
Yeah,
he's not afraid to catapult.
No, that's good to know. Good to see. Good to know. Blanca Alabao goes on that theme we talked about earlier. Starboard letting another rider go. Blanca going on We Won, which is not such a massive surprise. It was a surprise when I read it, but then when you look at it, her brother-in-law, Ben Vandersteen, is one of the guys that's part of We Won. I'm guessing that has something to do with it. There's some internal talks over family dinners that obviously went on and led to it. Do you know any more information on that?
Yeah, Benny van der Steen is obviously, one of us, a racer, and he's now the designer at We1. He's always been a really good R&D person with all the brands that he's been. Also some great results, podiums, event wins and stuff. So there's like a heritage, and I think racers gravitate towards these type of people that you feel they've been through the trenches. They've been through what you've been through, and I think that's why those rider driven brands, they're, these are the ones that, let's say, grow. Like if you think of JP, then Goya, like now these are mainstream brands, but at the beginning they were rider driven entities, so I mean, pretty much, yeah. Patrick, whatever. So it's, yeah, I think racers gravitate towards that, and maybe We1 is the is the next one. Who knows?
Interesting.
Just quickly, is Ben van der Steen married to Blanca Alabau's sister? Is he?
Yes.
Oh, didn't know that.
There's 3 sisters. One of them is Marina, who's an Olympic gold medalist from London.
Oh.
Blanca, who's competing, and Sarah, who's Ben's wife. All like based in Tarifa, and like a really water sports family,
Oh,
really
interesting.
Really into it. And now Ben's and Sarah's kids are really getting into water sports and windsurfing and winging, and it's super cool. Super cool.
Yeah, that's what's coming, isn't it? That's the interesting one. Just okay, sorry. What we got? Sorry. Yeah, going on the girls stream. Lena Erzin apparently is on S2 Maui sales, and I also saw, who else was I see, which isn't on this list. Well, obviously Justine Lemaitre is on Patrick. That's the big one. World champion, and one of the most, if not the most up and coming over the years. But she's been tipped for the top for a while, but she smashed it last year. And I would say Patrick is one of the winners in the racing discipline this year. They've signed a lot of riders, I feel like. Would you agree with that, Maciek? They signed quite a few riders, or am I missing?
Yeah, when you have good gear, or in that case, probably the, let's say, most consistent or easiest to use foil, it's much easier to sign riders. Riders in racing, we have this disadvantage, I would say, that we have to use production gear. So it's not like you can really, during the season, work your gear around you and modify it and things like that. You can't really shape it around you. So the gear is what it is. And if it's good, you get the riders at a better price than if your gear is, average.
Yeah, it makes sense for sure.
Right? Because riders were, this is another point that we are sort of not the best businessmen, because all of us want to win, and you're gonna do a lot to win. And so then you're probably gonna take a discount to win, or to try to win, rather than maybe
No, but that is business, I think, because
it is business. But I tell you what, nobody right now is willing to do what I've gone through. For example, that I went on a smaller brand as a younger guy and molded the thing around myself, and it didn't take a year. It took 7 years, from top 20, low top 20 to world champion with 2 small brands. And I think it has tremendous value in terms of learning how the business works and how R&D works. And these days, all the young guys, they want to be in good gear straight away, which is, I know the old guy talking about how shit the current generation is and whatever, but it's a little bit, I think it makes it makes the contract situations slightly worse for everybody, because there's brands out there looking for riders in racing, but because those brands maybe don't have the best gear yet and you have to put in 2 years, nobody wants to go there, and it's like,
well, interestingly, like, I just need to sum up this racing stuff for people because we've been on a long time, but there has been some massive moves within racing this year. Justin Lemaitre, last year's world champion, and Johan So, who obviously won, I don't know how many rounds last year. He's obviously not world champion because he did the Olympics and blah, 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 but still, obviously one of the top guys, both going on Patrick. Then we've got on the other side of that, FMX pretty much is the biggest loser. I thought they'd quit. I thought it was over. And then I'm reading something that's still going. We're going to talk about that because I don't quite understand the whole thing. Maciek will definitely shed some light on that. And then we've also got Amado Vriespike, which is, I didn't see, he was on Severne and obviously Future Fly, changing over to 0.7. And I saw the talk in Japan. Again, we'll talk to Maciek about that. But these are the points we're just going to cover because I know it's going on a bit. Daniela Benedetti, Duotone, all over to Duotone. So got rid of FMX, Challenger sales. I think his wetsuit sponsors everything. And he's basically in the full boards and more package, which is Iron and Duotone. We can talk about Maciek Rakowski as well. William Huber over to Patrick. We've got Sasha Fortune on Duotone. So Duotone have been making some moves. Sasha Fortune, one of the up-and-coming guys from Guadeloupe. It's Guadeloupe? It is Guadeloupe. And he was been smashing it in the youths. I did an interview with him. I saw the other day on my laptop. I never actually put it out there, which I filmed at the IFCA. And he's in a really good place. I think he was on Challenger and Future Fly, gone over to Duotone. Bob van der Berg has gone over to 0.7 and Patrick. And Andy Laufer just announced he has left Neil Pride and JP. So there's some interesting ones in there. Maciek, where are you kicking off? Because you've got the intel more than me on all this sort of stuff.
I was always teasing because if anybody knows Patrick Detail, they know it's a guy that loves to tease and talk and kind of, he loves to win the argument, let's say. So when I was sponsored by him, we used to fight a lot. But now I'm not sponsored. We have this playful, relationship where I always tease him. And I've been teasing him for a few years, like, I've been telling him, like, you're claiming your gear is the best. So why don't you put some top riders on it and really prove it, you know? So now he's done that. So let's see.
Well, in the women, they've got Justine Lemaitre now and Marion Mortefon, although Marion Mortefon is now having a year off because she's pregnant.
Yes. Congratulations, Marion.
So congratulations to Marion. And that maybe explains why the move for Justine Lemaitre, maybe. Again, I could be wrong. There might have been a planned all along. But And
I tell you another thing about Patrick. He's so competitive that he just, he's gonna bend over backwards to win as well. So now he has, let's say, all the pieces in place, and let's see how the team does.
For people who don't know, maybe some people out there not following the racing so much. I mean, Patrick, with his iron foil, has really dominated the market as in a plug and play foil at the high end of racing. I would say there are other foils that can compete with it, I think, in terms of speed. But from what I understand, in terms of if you're at that high end and you don't want to mess around with anything, you just want to shove it in your board and have a very, very competitive foil. If not,
but that's what I was about to say. This opinion is out there, of course, and it's not come from thin air. It's not bullshit, this opinion. But who's world champion? That's what counts at the end of the day, it's been it's so I think Patrick is out to prove that, with these signings.
Yeah.
I got a question for you,
Again,
Mitch.
if you look at, Johan So, he was on the Patrick foil last year. If you look at his results, I mean, he's not world champion, but
Let him do the full tour,
yeah,
feel the pressure. I'm probably if somebody followed closely, like my 2023, he can see how, and now I'm easy to talk about it because I worked through these things, but how a person can look out performance wise when things are clicking mentally and when things are not, and when you have a whole load of pressure on you. Of course, I don't know Johan well enough to say whether he can handle it or not, but it's, if you have this level of talent and this level of physique and just this level of skill and whatever, and you come and you have zero pressure on you because you're not ranked, because you're not, it's easier.
you still want to win an event. I mean, that's not.
Of course, but I
the
can
guy
tell
is
you
on a good level.
I can tell you that it's very, very different when you have 8, 10, 12, 14 months of pressure on you to perform versus when anything is a bonus.
Yeah.
When I got my first podium, when I won my first event, when these things happened, it was all like positive, but then there is a point where everybody expects you to win.
Yeah.
I won a world title. I won the first event of the year. Second event, I finished second. And I finished second in Pozo. And people were already asking me, like, why did you come second? You know what I mean?
Oh, yeah.
And it's like, it's such a sick result in terms of world title campaign and whatever. But it's already like,
yeah.
What's going on?
It's when you watch the Olympics as a kid, you look at the Brits or the UK guys, and one of them finishes fourth. You're like, terrible. But actually, fourth or third or second is a great result. The Olympic, well, fourth maybe not so much, but if you get, that, and that's how I'm talking. Fourth's not a good result, but that could be the best result they've ever had. Like you don't know, but when you're watching stuff like, especially on the outside, it's like, well, you got to win. Surely. Or if you've not been winning before and or you've not been in the podium and you get a podium, it's great. But as soon as you've got a podium, the next stage up is second. Then it's first. And then once you've had a first, everything after that is like, oh, yeah, cool.
Yeah, and
hard.
It's difficult. And once you know a person when the first adversity hits, when you're just like flying on top of the water and you're winning everything and everything comes easy, you're in this undisrupted flow state where just everything clicks. But at one point, sooner or later, adversity will hit. And this is when you see somebody, how they come back from that. You see Pierre Mortefon, it's like he had like 2-3 dog years, he was racing out of his skin, but there was things that he just couldn't overcome, and then he comes back and he wins a double world title.
Yeah. And
this is what the legacy of a racer is, like how you.
So, a question: does Johan So go for Patrick because he's still keen on the IQ foil? And Patrick has definitely got his fingers into the IQ foil because I've seen the Patrick IQ foil sail. Is there an IQ foil board for Patrick as well? Do we know that?
Yeah. There's the full package foil as well.
So I'm guessing that has definitely something to do with it because from what again, maybe you know more.
Yes, and the World Championships are in Denmark.
Okay.
So yeah, definitely that's the case. And combining the two can be really a blessing, but can be really hard too. Like again, when I I was doing both, and when things were clicking, it was amazing because one was helping the other and whatever. But then when you hit a wall and you kind of, your mindset is not where you want it to be, then it's like a burden, so it can be both, you know what I mean? So we'll see. We'll see.
Okay, what's your take on Amado Vreeswijk?
I think it's good. I think it's great. Like 0.7 is a racing brand. They need a racer. Amado is one of these guys that has a great image, and is training hard and is
So my question is it why has he changed? Do we know?
I think Severne just decided I don't know if it's Severne deciding they want to have one top racer fighting for a world title, or if it's 0.7, the offer was really good.
Because obviously 0.7 lost Johan, so they had the money because they were
0.7 wasn't really cool to support somebody that's gonna be riding, a Severne or a Patrick Sale in IQ 6 months out of the year, and then come in and be dominant, but then never really commit to the tour and be like, kind of a little bit maybe too cool for school in a way. So they wanted, Amado, who's obviously a world title contender, one of the fastest guys out there, and has a great image and is really rooted in windsurfing and has a good personality. And
he's keen. I mean, Amado is pushing. He wants that world title. I'm interested to know what happens once he gets that world title, but I guess we'll have to cross that bridge when we get to it. But after having conversations with him, and also when I was speaking with Cookie and whatever, Bruno Martini's name was getting kind of bandied around a little bit, and I haven't heard much from Bruno. Is he still on Neil Pride JP? Is that? I guess I haven't heard anything. I just would kind of assume.
It's one of those things where I'm not really at liberty to say, I think.
Okay.
Because I don't want to make somebody's announcement for other people. You know what I mean? I don't want to make.
No, okay, fine. Because I just heard rumors, not anything concrete about. I remember just because Andrea Cookie was talking about it. And then again, I haven't heard anything. So then I was like, oh, I wonder if he's still on. So I haven't seen much, but I guess we'll have to watch this space, one of those ones.
Yeah.
Question, Maciek, when you're with slalom, obviously equipment is an incredibly important part for, for as a competitor. How does it work? Say you're on a particular brand of sail, but it's clear that the guy on the Neil Pride sail is... I mean, like, is there a sense when you're in slalom that there is a sail or a board that is just faster than the gear that you've got? I mean, how do you tell if you're not actually using it? If the guy overtakes you, be like, is it his skill? Is it the equipment? I mean, how does that work when you're choosing gear and trying to, increase your chances of actually going for a world championship? You need, you want the best gear or something, Yeah.
Ben knows from sitting with us at the dinner table and from, the no wind days, the lay days, that slalom sailors are generally gear focused to a fault, meaning we obsess because we spend so much time tuning the gear, developing the gear for next year, spend so much time focused on the gear that when the contest comes, like a lot of people have trouble to switch to that mode of actually, if I start good and I jibe good 4 times, probably doesn't matter what gear I'm on, I'm going to make the final anyway. So there's always around the events a lot of chit chat, like I don't know, in Fuerte the first day was super windy, and I think like the really small sails of Patrick are really good, and they're like, oh, look at these guys, like even like the young guys you never saw in your life before were doing good, so there's this chat, and some people are disappointed with their equipment or their designers and it's like always the first event really shows, they really like because in the
First
winter,
event's exciting, isn't it? It is exciting, and maybe it's nervous for you guys, but for me, it's like you like who's going to be, what gear is going to be going good, because they've done all the testing, they've got ideas. There was a lot of talk about Jordi Vonk in the training last year, you know, and you get these little rumors that, oh, this is going good, or there's a sweet size in a certain brand, which it could be the 7.4 or the 6.8 or the 8.4, whatever. It could be a certain combo, which, oh, that guy's freaking devastating on that. Or again, you get some young guys that suddenly just come out of nowhere.
yeah, man. And the funny part is like it changes with spots as well.
Yeah, exactly.
Like I've had events where on one piece of equipment I was untouchable, and then you take that same piece of equipment, that same size, same mast, same board, to a different place, and you're still fast, but it's not like you're you know, winning final after final. Like, okay, it was COVID, whatever, but we had this event in Croatia in 21, which wasn't live streamed. It was only a 2-star, but everybody was there. And with my 7.8 and my medium board, I swear it was just like racing just became easy all of a sudden, you know?
Mm-hmm.
And that piece of equipment right there in that place was just working wonders. And then it rubs off on you and you jump on the other gear, which maybe the other size is not that good. And you have all this confidence, you know? And then all of a sudden you nail starts, and all of a sudden you do good jibes, and all of a sudden you come out of situations like in Pozo in 23, I fell twice in semifinals and I still made the heat, like coming back from last to top 4, because you just feel so good that you have this confidence that you just never stop believing in yourself. And this relationship with your gear is just something super important. Once you're out on your gear, you see it once we get off the Canaries and you see people arriving in Silt, you know, some people are just ticking down the days till the end of the year because they don't believe in their gear anymore, you know? And the opposite, you know, and you see some guys fired up to race and they want the season to keep going because they've improved through the summer. They changed their buttons. They have a new front wing that works better than the other one, even though it's supposed to be the same. And we obsess about equipment. And it's to a fault. And with foiling, unfortunately, it became even more. And I don't remember the original question, but it's, yeah, but by August, everybody knows which gear is good, probably by June, July, everybody
the end
knows.
of the first reach.
I guess part of the question was, let's just say, for example, it's clear that the Neil Pride sale is the best. I mean, and you're not with Neil Pride. Does that mean at the end of the season you'll be thinking, well, I need to get on Neil Pride because otherwise I can't win? Does those sort of thoughts happen, or is it more just like, I mean, as a, you know,
I think if you're a true champion, you think that you can win with everything.
Okay.
And it's that fine balance of where actually reality is, you know, of like, okay, I have this confidence that I can win on everything, but I still need to work on my gear.
Yeah.
You know, and I've won.
I was just going to say, like you said before, different places, different gear. So it's interesting because maybe the Neil Pride, I mean, we're using just figures, could be 0.7, could be 7, you know, at a certain place, that sale might be the best. But at the next venue, it maybe acts differently. Like Silt last year with this kind of algae in the water or something, there was people literally pulling their hair out, didn't know what to do. You know, and certain foil setups and certain styles of riders, because of the way it was holding the foil back, it suited them, and they were like killing it. And other riders that ride their foil differently with different lift setups, maybe a bit weaker lift setup or whatever, it was killing them. They were like struggling, and it took them a couple of days to basically figure it out. And then already you're halfway through the competition.
Yeah, and you know, it's like that's the disconnect between like you're fast and you can win. Like like when I in 22 when I won the world title in Japan, I was not even the top 5 fastest guys, you know, but I believed in it, man. I believed in it so much that I just made heats happen and things fell into place. Like Matteo was my main rival. In one of the heats we had together in the semifinal, he took the wrong size sail and I was on the right size sail. I advanced, he didn't. We were on fin. It was in the more like, you know, things of that nature. So you need the right balance. You need to work tirelessly on your gear, but then in the contest, you need to remember that you still need to start good and jibe good and whatever. And then at the end of the year, if the Neil Pride is the best sail, clearly the inbox of the Neil Pride team manager will be full of people wanting to come for free or for pennies, you know?
That's the big win, isn't it? The big win. And this is what I think is struggling with the racers at the moment, that there was a massive national scene before in terms of fin sailing. And obviously then the effects of what results that you guys were getting on the World Tour were massively affecting the sales of gear. So,
yes,
you know, a win for you at the World Tour in, you know, mid, like say 2018 or something like this would have a huge ripple effect, like down the national scene, because the national guys who buy their gear, they're not as like, beholden to a certain sponsor. Like, let's say if you're on the World Tour, you're getting paid, you're going to want to work with that sponsor to get the sales right and the boards right if they're looking after you and they're paying you well for next year. Whereas if you're a national rider on a discounted deal, or maybe you're just an average guy just doing the tour, and you see suddenly 0.7 or Neil Pride are winning everything, and they've took random guys and they're also doing well in the World Cup, you're like, you know what, I want that sail, I want that board. You know, that's what's happened with Patrick foil, really, the Aeon foil. People have done that, and you see it nationally. You know, it's obviously a smaller circuit, the foils nationally, but it's still a market. And pretty much all the guys I know all now want this Patrick foil, you know, rightly or wrongly, whatever. I'm not going to get into that. I think it's proved itself, and it's obviously proved itself to a point where people are giving the cash over, and it's not cheap. So that was the same effect. But the national series, like, you guys want to get paid more. This goes back to what Paul said, or Maciek said before, is making the pool bigger. And for you guys, it's building the national series. Like, for me, the brands should be really pushing to get the national racing series bigger, because that then creates the interest for the top level. You know, the money.
Yeah, there's a very good example of Pierre winning Slalom X. Okay, Pierre last year, he was sponsored by Phantom.
Yeah,
Phantom doesn't have a fin board. They have foil boards, but they don't have a fin board. So he needed a sponsor. Do you think that he would consider FMX if it wasn't like, I don't want to take all the credit, but I've ridden these boards from when nobody was riding them until where everybody wanted to ride them. And FMX had other riders during that time. It wasn't like other riders were, setting the world on fire with the results, but slowly but surely the boards, they got an opinion of some of the best boards, and then you get a rider like Pierre Mortefon, who is in this peculiar situation of signing with Phantom and not get sponsored for probably a significantly small deal to come and ride for you, and he wins a world title on your boards, But that goes back to, like 6 years of other people, or of myself, like pushing and growing together with the brand. So it's like, sometimes it's really worth investing into R&D and into riders, because at the end of that road, you'll get riders a lot cheaper. You'll get results.
Exactly. That's the goal, isn't it? All the brands, if you've got good gear, you will sell gear, but it ain't as easy as just having good gear. You've got to put a lot of effort in. You've got to have the right riders to work on the gear, the testing. You obviously, the shaper needs to be on it as well. They need to be able to work together with the riders. And then it also has to be not just for Pierre Mortefon, who's winning a world title, because if you're just a normal national guy, which is, we've talked about this before, that maybe there's certain sense that a smaller person might need a different board, but there's a whole new thing. But I've got to say, there's a moment here. Andy Wood, what a legend! $20. What a legend! So
awesome.
we'll have a few beers on Andy. Well, Paul doesn't drink, but we'll get him a cup of tea or something. But cheers, Andy. I appreciate that. And I will say, this is a podcast channel. If you've stumbled across it, this isn't Windsurfing TV. This is Windsurfing TV podcast channel. So if you haven't subscribed. You know, if you're not into podcasts, do not subscribe. There's no point.
This is for the real ones.
Yeah, exactly. There's going to be. It's not going to be as big for sure, but it's for the ones that have got a bit of spare time, drive a lot. You have a job where you can listen to windsurfing radio and us just chirping on. So, like I said, don't subscribe if you're not into podcasts. But if you are, probably do that.
Don't subscribe if you like sticking to a topic.
Yeah, don't subscribe if you want actual things that go with the heading.
Slightly off topic.
What more off?
just quick. No, this is just a curiosity. Say Bjorn Dunkerbeck at his prime. You know, I consider his prime being in the, I don't know, early 90s or whatever, early mid 90s. How do you think he would go, Maciek, if you took prime Dunkerbeck, or even a lot of those other guys that Bringdale, these kind of characters, and you put them into today's racing and put them into today's equipment? Would you have any idea how you think they would go against all you guys?
I think he's winning.
I think he's good. I don't know if he's winning, but he's definitely good. Especially because these guys back in the day, I think the physicality was more important. The boards were really narrow. The fins had not a lot of lift. So there was a lot more of a natural selection. You needed to be tall and really big. So those legends from back in the day, they are fucking massive, you know? And that guarantees that they would be fast. The racing was very different because they would never enter the first mark in 4 or 5 people, 6, 7, sometimes 8 people now. So the racing now is a lot tighter. So actually the skill of navigating the crowd and this and that.
He's winning.
But Bjorn is
winning. Like my take.
Yeah. Okay.
Well, it's an interesting one because you see it in football. You see it Prime, Maradona, Woody, and it's very difficult to do that because I think there's sometimes quite a lot of disrespect when you get the younger generation now looking at older generations. Oh yeah, these new guys are good, but man, when you think about it, Dunkerbeck was there when there was a lot more of a pool around in terms of like there was a lot of money in windsurfing, so the pool surely was bigger. So, and he was dominating by a fucking country mile. Then towards the later end of his career, which is in the 2000s, he had Albo, and Albo was unbeatable compared to everyone else, but he was still beating him. And Albo then carried on and was still pretty much not unbeatable, but killing the other guys. And Bjorn was ahead of him. So you think prime Dunkerbeck.
I think you're getting stuff a little bit confused here because when Slalom came back in 2005.
Yeah.
From 2005 till around 2012, it was Bjorn versus Antoine.
Yeah, but how old was Dunkerbeck then?
Well, he's only like a few years older than Antoine. Antoine's 52 or 53. Let's check that. I think they're not so far apart. Antoine started later. Antoine's 52. Bjorn, Dunkerbeck. 55.
So how old were they when they were fighting out in mid-2000s, let's say, when Slalom came back?
Well, it was 20 years ago, so they were in their 30s. Antoine 33, 32, and Bjorn 35. They were my age right now. So they were still very much in their prime. Fighting out front, legends. But that period, okay, Bjorn, a lot more miles already at that time, yeah, because Bjorn was winning from when he was freaking 16 or whatever, right? Antoine started winning at 28, whatever. So Bjorn, a lot more miles. So you can say he's kind of all there at that point. But if you take that period from 2005 to 2011, Antoine has the upper hand.
Okay.
But obviously in the custom era, because when Slalom came back, it became production boards. In the custom era, nobody had a sniff at Bjorn. And a lot of the haters are going to say it's because he had 100 custom boards budget and whatever. But if you look at how that gear was, the characteristics of the gear, the narrow tail, the G10 fin, the sails with a tight leech or whatever, I can see just you needed his physique to even try to battle him.
Yeah.
And then his mental game was just on an insane level. That's why I think he would be very competitive today as well, because the mental game is what really separates the champion from the almost champion, you know? And Bjorn has an insane mental game. To be on top for such a long time, you need an insane mental game.
I mean, I heard stories about Bjorn was winning so easily that then he started to handicap himself a little bit. Just because he was. I mean, it's really interesting. I'd love that to be a real thing that we could do. Is bring
Antoine versus Bjorn is a good podcast.
Yeah.
Or Bjorn versus everybody. Actually, you go through all his rivals from Robbie Naish, Anders Bringdahl.
Yeah.
You know,
Bringdahl. You hear the Andy Irons, Kelly Slater stuff, and you hear Mick Fanning talking about it the other day. Like it's really interesting.
And it's like, what do you value more? You know, like Andy was up there for like probably 5 years. He won 3 titles, but he was like the most stylish, whatever. Kelly's career is just obviously so much longer and whatever. But at that given period of time, probably Andy was better. So how do you judge that? I hate this thing. Oh, who's better, LeBron or Jordan? You know, or like Maradona, Pele, or Messi.
I love it.
Like, you love it? Because like you can't compare the football of that time to this football. This football is so much better now, you know.
Is it?
I think wasn't there a couple of years when Andy won, you know, Kelly wasn't on the tour though, I think, from memory. But
but then
But I know still. But it's and also I wanted to ask you, Ben and I have talked about it a few times. What are any thoughts? I don't know if you've heard us talk about it, having 2 different weight divisions in slalom. Is that something that you'd be into, or?
I don't really have an opinion on it. Like
you do, you told me. Like it was like,
anytime somebody doesn't agree with Ben,
it's like having midget basketball. You told me. It's like, why would you? That's what you said. That's what you said.
That's not the words I use, but I love that take. I love that take.
$22. That's freaking legends.
Euro, yeah. Thanks, man. Thanks so much. Yeah. That's awesome.
Yeah.
That's that.
And he said,
no, between the two of you guys, hang on, the 2 of these guys putting in these super chats, that has made more revenue than the ad revenue on this channel since we started. I think I looked the other day. It was something like, I think it was like €2 and something.
Still waiting for my check, Benny. But anyway, so what was the answer?
Hang on.
Wait, what's the answer, Maciek?
Hey, don't lie. I don't
okay. When he brought it up, I scoffed. And when I scoffed, he kind of thought I'm like super anti and he started fucking bashing me, you know? But actually, like, whatever, you know? Let there be midget basketball.
Midget.
I still think under 80 kilos is a thing. I'm not under 80 kilos, just so we know that right now. But I do believe under 80 kilos is a thing. The youths come into it. you know, the whatever's come into it. Like age is not about age, it's about weight and size, which is why some of the young guys, if you are above size at a younger age, you can smash out some really good results in the youth, you know, and you might be a really talented junior, but if you haven't got the weight, it doesn't matter. Like, and we're going to see that in Turkey. We talked about this in the podcast before. I won't go into it, different podcast, but there's like hundreds of youths and juniors in Turkey. Some of them super talented and some of them just won't grow. I was one of them. You know, like in terms of slalom, I loved racing, but there's just no future in it. I didn't want to get fat and, you know, end up or being massively muscly like Tatty Franz, though I don't think I could have done that anyway. But it's just not I don't want to be like that. I want to be able to race normally. Like, why can't I just race with people my similar size, like boxing?
Yeah, look, maybe I scoffed at you because I was not given that handout, let's say.
You were upset that you hadn't been given that choice.
Exactly, because I struggled for the first 10-12 years of my I still struggle. I'm still.
There you go. So you should be more. You should be more in tune with that. You should be like, yeah, I get it. I get it.
Yeah,
should help the next generation.
Yeah, I get it. I totally get the idea. It's just that I consider myself the everyman. How you say, like the everyday man, everyman. You know, I don't have massive bones. I'm not like I have the worst genetics. Like, if anyone trained as much as I did, they would look fucking amazing, you know, and I look like a office worker, you know, but I made it, you know, and it just makes it so much more gratifying, you know, but it doesn't take away anything from the under 80. You want to go in the under 80 or under 85, whatever.
I think it was super interesting, and I genuinely think if we're on production gear, there could be different gear for the under 80 kilos, which I don't think maybe the women's market is not big enough to justify making separate gear. But if there's an under 80 category and you've got the women, then there is a whole new revenue stream, and maybe it's interesting, maybe it's not, maybe I'm speaking out of place, maybe it doesn't matter, who knows, but it's an interesting one, I think.
Do it and let's see.
Yeah, okay.
I scoffed at it, so you got pissed, but then I thought to myself like, let them just do it and find out.
Yeah, very true. What about this? What do you think of this? Daniela Benedetti joins Duotone.
Yeah, it was already kind of close the previous year. I think they value their presence. They value Italy as a market, and they really like Daniele, and they've been on to him for a while, and it sort of happened. And yeah, I have not much to say there. I mean, it's a natural path of the thing, right? You go on a smaller brand, then you go on a bigger one, and I don't know, you reap the big bucks. I don't know.
Is he training over in Tenerife? Is this someone that comes over to Tenerife?
I just missed him. He was here when I was not here, and so yeah.
What's the rumor on the street? Going all right?
But I don't really.
Okay.
Don't have any. I stopped paying attention so much to who's going fast in the 17th race of today's training. I kind of grew out of that a little bit.
No, but usually there's a feel that if someone's going a bit better or the same or slower.
And how many times of this it actually rang true at the event?
Yeah, no, I'm not saying it does, I guess, but that's good. It's good that you
it's almost the opposite.
Yeah, sometimes it is. Sometimes it is.
It's like, oh, this guy's shit, and then he comes and like, you know. So yeah.
Okay, so speaking of which, what are you doing? Because we did touch on it at the beginning, which is interesting that you decided or forced to decide to go without a board sponsor last year, and also like probably trying to spin it in a positive way by saying, oh yeah, but now I can pick whichever board I want and then do that, which we already heard earlier, it didn't quite work like that. Any movements for this year? How are we going to see Maciek Rakowski with one of these announcements?
Yeah. I'm finalizing my board sponsorship for this year. It's still a
Oh,
little
so
bit too early to
you are
announce.
signing someone.
Yes, I'm gonna have a board sponsor. As I said,
Ooh.
it's significantly more difficult to stand on one leg than it is on two. So I'm excited, and yeah, we're still working. I would love to break the news here on this show that is so close to my
Can we
heart.
guess? Paul, you
But-
any good at guessing? Van Bellen's got, he's sleeping, isn't he? He's turned his mic off. He's like,
Sorry. I coughed before, so I turned it off and I forgot to put it back on.
no, I'm just saying, you got to guess. You got to guess.
Yeah. And I could hear it. I just couldn't speak.
Okay, you're allowed yes and
you
no
put me on the
answers.
spot. You put me on the spot, so I just got to think
Yes
about
and
this.
no answers. Is it a mainstream brand?
I really promised myself not to get into it with you guys, and I won't. I
don't know.
honestly,
Well, look,
I look, because
It's not
I've gotten fucked in this business before, and I just don't say anything until I put pen to paper. And
Okay.
that's okay. But Ben and I still have to play games.
And until I get the signed contract from
you don't want to be a Julian Salmon.
Yeah, I don't know. I don't know what happened there, but
all right. Well, it's okay, Maciek. You can put on your poker face, but if I had to guess, I'll just because Ben asked me if I had to guess. Look, I'll just say JP, and that's my guess. All right. What about you, Benny? Do you have a guess?
I'm going to guess. No, I'm going to guess. And this is based on just stuff I've heard in this podcast, which he hasn't give anything away. But me, being me, I've already got an idea.
Tiga.
Exocet.
Woo! Exocet. All right.
That was just because of the way you sounded like you were upset that Antoine Martin didn't go on Exocet. I thought, you never know. Maybe there's
wow.
That was just
I have zero idea, Maciek, so I'm just totally taking a stab. Benny's probably got a better guess, but anyway, I'll get. When are you going to announce it?
I'm looking forward to the announcement. That's what I'm looking forward to.
Yeah, later this month we'll announce. So, yeah, if everything.
And
of
Mango
course,
Tree says it's big.
Yeah,
big. Anyone else want to take a guess?
I always wondered, because we had this. There was this thing called Big Techno Cup, which is something which is something that I would really love to bring back one day, like, just a youth cup, and then the final of that, the winner of that in Poland would go to the Super 8 event it was in Grisson. Yeah. And then I used these boards. I was already playing on some smaller wave boards, whatever. And then I used these boards and they weren't very good. And I was a kid, like of 12 years old or 10 years old or whatever, wondering, like, how is Kevin Pritchard going so fast with these such bad boards? So that's my memory of big boards.
But maybe there's a proposal there. Like, now you can have one of those press out boards that they press together and they're absolutely flying, and it's cheap.
Yeah, it would be great.
You said something before, Maciek, as well, about how you've basically sacrificed other parts of life because this was your dream and you wanted to, be a professional windsurfer. When do you see a life after your professional windsurfing where you'd still like to sort of stay in the windsurf industry and get involved more behind the scenes? Or have you thought about any of that? Or is that just, you don't even worry about that because who knows what the future holds kind of thing? Well, yeah.
Yeah, you try to put one foot in front of the other. I've already kind of laid some seeds with my event. We're doing like a water sports festival, organizing it with my girlfriend. It's called King of the Bay. Ben was there last year. There's a very nice video.
Amazing job, I gotta say.
There's a very nice video, of Ben just roaming the festival, and we started that last year, and this year, it's based around the long distance race, and this year we've already had, it's like 3.5 months to the event, and we already have like 220 entrants.
Oh, wow.
220. So
That's amazing.
It's amazing. Yeah, it's an amazing community back home, and so so that thing, and then I wouldn't like, judging by the podcast we did with Ben and the brand manager of Fanatic at the time, Craig Gertenbach, and we picked our teams, and my team was by far the best.
Yeah.
So maybe, I don't know, maybe
I don't know by far the
manager.
best, but it was it was
maybe
all
I
right.
should be a team manager. That would be cool, But
cool,
I love the sport, and I love the kind of everything that goes around it as well, as much as the sport itself. Media is one of my big interests. So maybe there will be, I don't know, a competition to Windsurfing TV. I don't know. Not joking, but there's a few things in the pipeline which they are kind of waiting for the right time, the right partners in terms of sponsorships, and the right circumstances. And over the years, I've pitched so many ideas to so many people, Ben included. Topics for videos and topics for podcasts, but so many projects.
The thing is, and I'll tell you now, the easy bit, no disrespect to you here, but I'm just saying the easy bit is coming up with the ideas and the stuff. Is just the execution. It's like, that's what I've found. Like, I could come up with the million fucking ideas. That's the problem is executing them in a way where they don't cost, or they actually make sense to do it, because there's so many cool things to do. Talking of this, just get this comment in, because it's quite interesting. Christopher says, how many boards does a board sponsor provide per year? I mean, it's
in racing, like, I would say the kind of bare minimum that you need to have to compete at a world title level is 2 boards a size, right? So back in the day, that's like the bare minimum, and probably the guys that are really competing for those titles have more. Exactly, because anything can happen. You can have a big crash, you can get T-boned by someone, and your first board is you need to replace it. So that's like the bare minimum, and then you'd have you'd have maybe 3 in some key sizes, maybe 4 to pick, because laminated things, composites in general, they're never the same. There's slight little differences, and the way you put a winning package together is you have a board that's 1% better, you have a sail that's 2% better, you have a batten that's 0.5% better, you finish your foil in a way that gives you 1%, and at the end it's maybe 10%, and 10% of a 500 meter first reach is 5 meters. It's 50 meters, so it's not 10%, it's more like 1%. 1% of a 500 meter reach is 5 meters, so it's just enough to clear your next opponent, come first, and once you jibe that first mark first, it's kind of easy from there. So you need at least 2 boards per size, and so depending on what the discipline is. And then in waves, Ben, custom board budget.
I mean, it really depends. I mean, and it depends on what level you're at, who we're talking about. Back in the day when I signed my first ever contract with Fanatic, I think it was 8 boards, maybe 8 boards, but I went quite high up that level. But again, different people have different needs. So maybe there might be 6 production boards and 4 customs, or 8 and 4 customs. It depends who you are. For someone like Brasinho, he's just gets as many as he wants until he finds the boards he wants for certain bits, I guess. Because I've heard Brasinho's deal is he gives all his gear back. He doesn't keep it. And a lot of the brands used to fund a lot of the riders, where it would be you'd be given the gear and you're allowed to sell it. But I heard Goya don't do that. They don't want that going into the market. Again, I'm not speaking from experience here, but that's kind of what I heard. And then there's different ways of doing it. Some people, like Taboo Gastro, I think over the years, gave you a budget, and then you basically had to buy your gear. within the budget.
Yeah.
You could decide you might only have 2 boards if you really wanted to, but you would have this budget and you could choose what you got with it. Again, everyone does it different, so it's pretty tricky. And over the years, obviously those board numbers have gone down because there's obviously less money in that sport swishing around, and they don't want all that stuff going into the market. So I think board numbers have definitely gone down for depending what level you're at.
Benny, what's the best contract you've heard of within the sport that you know is true, not this BS?
I don't know if you know it's true, but I heard 200 grand for Cowley Ciardi. Is that right? 100 and 100? But that seems quite crazy, but it seems maybe at the time, maybe it's possible.
I heard Antoine RD don't support the channel, so we can go there. I heard Antoine's RD was like around 40 or 50 in salary and then another 50 in incentives. So if he wins the world title, it's basically 100 grand.
I mean,
and then teen amount of boards, which also, you know, at that level it doesn't change if you get, you know, 11 or 12 boards, but it's so
I mean, it is really difficult. I heard, Paul. I heard Josh Angulo nearly bankrupted someone because, was it Josh Angulo, for having coverage bonus which wasn't capped, and he just nailed it, and they nearly had to. Wasn't it F2 nearly bank or something like that? Maybe it wasn't
Josh Stone, not Josh Angulo, no?
Well, maybe it was Josh.
The king of publicity.
Oh, yeah, Josh
Stone.
Stone.
I didn't think it was Josh Stone, but maybe it was. I heard somebody. It could have been Nicky Eskimo or someone. You know, someone hit that Surf magazine with that Move magazine. So it could have been Josh Stone. Right?
Yeah. So we're talking, like me and Ben, we're talking about these things that we were present already in the sport. Obviously, Ben a little bit longer than me, but I think back in the day it was more in the like 200, 300 grand range. And I heard like also people had like
rumors. Wait a second, just clear this up. Rumors are rumors. I don't know what's true. I don't never saw.
I heard of a case where like somebody was getting like a $8 royalty per board of a given model, but they sold like 10,000 of that model. You know? So
royalties is amazing. Like the search back in the day, I guess Bjorn was getting it. Polakau was getting royalties off the zone. Josh Stone, I think, getting royalties off the core. Again, these are all rumors. I don't know the official stats, but that's what it used to be like, you know. And then you've got the classic example of Francisco Goya was with Fnatic. They gave him his own board, called it the Goya. It went down amazingly well. Everyone wanted it. And then he used that to then go, hang on a minute, I've got a good following here. I'm going to set up my own brand. And now we've got Goya today, one of the strongest wave brands, if not the strongest, maybe in the business, you know. So it's pretty interesting. And since that day of Goya doing that and a few others, less and less brands have give their riders that kind of platform to do it with, because I think it's got easier and easier to kind of kick off your own brand. Whereas back in the day, I think it was I think there was a lot more things that you needed to get right. Whereas now, with the way all the stuff works, it's maybe easier to get yourself on there.
And keep in mind,
this is the thing that I kind of struggle to understand with this game of musical chairs, is that the pie, okay, it does get smaller, but it's not like from year to year it's so much smaller. But there's so many changes. How come one person, one manager sees so much more value in a band profit than another manager that decides that this value is
beauty is in the eye of the beholder?
Is it just like human
women? Like, I don't like all your women, and you don't like, you know, like this.
No, but I think, but okay, I'm a manager. I signed you, and 5 years later I drop you. So what? So I just got bored of you? It's just like every human relationship has a time cap.
Yeah,
I mean,
maybe.
my like, you know, I went on a like, I took my sponsors and my sponsors took me on a fairy tale ride, and and these things are ending with lawyers and courts and what, like, why, you know, like
Well, okay, so we can just, for me, it's an easy analogy. Just look at it in terms of women, girlfriends, partners, marriage, wives, whatever. When you get together, you're all in love. It's all great. You're shagging every night, you know, having the old time, you know, and a couple of years down, you're buying a house, you're having kids. It's like saying, well,
Hey, Benny, are you still shagging every night?
We got another one on the way, mate. All good. But, you know, like a few years later after that, you're getting divorced. It's like saying, well, what's going on? You were all great. What happened? And it's like stuff for some people or whatever, it does work all the way through. I've been with Simmer. I'm like we're fully wifed up. We've got the kids going. We've got everything. You know, I'm celebrating, actually, weirdly, as I say that, I think it's 20 years with Simmer this year, because
cool.
I think I signed in 2005, which is pretty mad. So that's 20 years. I mean, Kai Catch Joy is
how much are you shagging after 20 years?
I'm still going in 20 years. It's like I said, it's still good. We still got a really good relationship.
I'm still so fucking excited every time I get new gear.
Yeah, I am. I was just talking to Pete. I just showed the new sales. Shall I Pete will kill me. Can I do a quick? No, I better not. Oh, it's exciting.
I saw the 2026 Neil Prides, like when I was in the Neil Pride office. And I'm like, fuck yeah.
It's still good, man. It's still good. And again, so going back to what you're saying, I think.
Here's Simmer now.
Sorry, I can't show that sale. No, but I was just saying, it is like that. Like some relationships just have got a good longevity in them and it all ticks the right boxes, and some are more just a one-night stand or 1 year stand, or, you know, you use them for what you need it for, and once you've got that out of it, you don't see anything left in it. Again, I can't speak for your sponsors. It shouldn't end up in court, but nor should marriage end up in court. But obviously stuff doesn't go well and two people don't agree. Whether they should or not is another question. It should all be able to be sorted amicably. But, you know, some women want to leave and they want half the money and the guy doesn't want to give them half the money, or the opposite way around. That's probably happened. You know, you're leaving and you're like, hang on a minute, I haven't been... I don't know your situation, but I'm guessing there's...
No, I think it's just human nature. And once you go through those situations and you kind of distance yourself, you start understanding that it's maybe human nature. But when you're in that, it just feels unfair, and it feels like, you know, or it feels like I'm the same. You know what I mean? I think it's just the nature of life. I mean, we're 3 hours in.
So just to end this podcast, like, because we've obviously been going a long time. What happened with FMX? That's part of the sponsorship.
Just to end, but this is
it's a
as we're doing this, I'm still in communication with. I can't really say because things are still ongoing.
Okay.
Like a year and 3 months after we split. So it's So
you're at marriage counseling or divorce lawyers?
But rebound.
Will there be a rebound, Shag? Ben?
Yeah.
No, I can't. Like I've been advised not to say.
Okay. So okay. Clear one thing up.
But one thing I can say that I will spill the truth I will spill the story once on this podcast.
Okay. So is FMX still trading?
I have no idea what the fuck they are doing.
Okay, I'll just check it. Hang on. Someone's just messaged it. Again, this is not my take. I know I'm going to say it, but this is a comment. FMX rebranded into Maciek Rakowski, that can't be
This
right.
is the one thing. This is the one thing I think I don't have the stomach for, is to run
MRX.
my own brand,
No.
like from
Mr.
scratch.
X.
But never say
Okay,
never.
so biggest losers of the transfer window. Which brand? This is not to say they're a bad brand, just to clear this up. That's the problem. People could take a little clip of this and it would sound bad. But this is nothing to do with how good the brand is. This is just, are they a winner in the transfer window? Are they a loser in the transfer window? Like, who has been the big winners? Who has signed good people? Forget the money, whatever. Just who by your thing looks like they've had a good one.
Well, yeah, like I think Duotone managed to erase the stink of like the Mark Perez situation. Yeah,
Would agree with that. Duotone have had a good one. So they've signed Liam, they've signed Daniela Benedetti. They've actually signed a few people, haven't they? Let me just pull up my list.
Yeah, so they went from looking like they're kind of
this big list.
Yeah. Probably if you sign Antoine Martin, you're probably a winner, right? Quattro.
Yeah.
Then Bruch signed a few people, you know, and they're kind of out there, much more out there. Okay, they lost Julian, but you kind of, you know, you didn't get stuck with nothing. Yeah, Goya for signing Paul van Bellen.
That's a big one.
That's a big one.
Big
in racing, in racing, you have to say Patrick. Patrick, now, like the jury is out on Patrick, on the gear of Patrick. Like this is the season where, like, you know, this brand that has been around for what 12 years, 13, 14 years now, 15 years now, and it has always been the kind of racing brand, really racing oriented. Now they have the team to show it, and let's see how it goes. So it's like they're winners, but they're also got pressure, you know?
Yeah,
so
that's fair enough.
Cool.
I think winners from the transfer window, I think we agree. I think Patrick and Duotone, they've been the most active. Will they be winners at the end of the year with who they've signed? That's another question. But in terms of who they've signed, I would say they've had the most action. The rest will
you know, and 0.7, like it's only one rider, but it fits. It fits because
you say 0.7 is only one rider. Yeah, it is, because they lost Testa. Testa signed for Gunn, didn't they? Amado have reached 0.7. I mean, I think that's a big move. I like it. I like Amado. I think he's definitely got the potential to be the world champion. And will it fit together all this year? Have we have any news on foils? Any moves in the foils? Have you decided what foils you're using this year, or is that not a? It's not.
I think Amado is one of the few guys that is actually sponsored for foils, and he's going to be on the Z foil, and
he's still going to be on the Z foil.
Yeah, I think so. He's here with a Z foil, new Z foil with a titanium, like a hybrid of titanium and carbon. It looks quite interesting, and I mean, we sailed yesterday together, but the 0.7 guys, they were on a schedule. Like I arrived a bit later. I sailed with Antoine. Actually, I sailed with Antoine Alboy. You were talking about the older guys, how they would fare. Antoine's still fast. So,
of course, that's what I'm saying. That's what I'm saying. And Bjorn
and Amado looked fast as well. So you know, so it's definitely, you know, it's definitely good.
Losers in the transfer window.
You gotta say Starboard, right?
I mean, they've lost some riders. They've lost.
You gotta say Starboard, Severne, actually, because also Amado leaving Severne. Who else?
Also RRD, I would say they lost their racer, their only racer.
Yeah.
Pretty much. And they've lost Takara issues.
And their top,
their
top waist.
I mean, Hayata's definitely pushing. Baptiste still there, but still to lose two riders from a very small team, I think is quite telling. And to lose all your sort of, and I haven't seen anyone sign up, but I could be wrong in racing. Maybe I've missed something.
But, maybe something will still happen. Racing, the gear comes out earlier, the season later, the season starts later, the contracts are done later, so everything's later. So maybe I know there's some stuff still open. So
and maybe North losing Antoine Martin was not ideal. I mean, it's a small team, and he was their big sort of rider, but they're obviously putting their eggs in the Miguel Chapuis basket, which is not a bad basket to put your eggs in, you know, one of the up and coming ones. So yeah. Okay. Good job, boys.
Under 3 hours.
3 hours. I think that's a marathon.
Can I answer this?
Whoever is still here from the beginning, you're a legend.
Yes. If you have literally been here since the beginning, let us know in the comments. I'd be very doubtful there's more than one or two. But if you have made it all the way through, let us know in the comments. Good job. Yeah, interesting season. Looking forward to it. We're kicking off pretty soon. They've got Puerto Rico at the moment. Doesn't look like we're going to get much wind. Jim Beck. Oh, there's a few. Guilty. There's a few.
Paul wanted to say something. We've been kind of killing him.
It's hard to get a word in with you guys. You just get. I just can't. I'm sitting here just like, can I talk? Can I talk? No, it's good. I actually really enjoyed this. Two things I just wanted to say. First of all, a few weeks ago, I was down at Coronation, and Anton. It was about 15 to 18 knots, and Anton brought his slalom gear down, and I hadn't used slalom gear for living memory. Like, I don't think I've ever really used it before. And I want to say a huge shout out to all you guys that you do slalom, because I just have wave gear. I got on this slalom gear thinking, oh, well, yeah, you know, it's windsurfing still. And I couldn't believe how different it is. Like, it's really, it gave me a massive appreciation for what I see on the PWA, because it's gnarly. It's way gnarlier than wave gear. Like, you get on wave gear and it's just like putting on an old pair of slippers. You just go, oh, yeah, it's comfortable, everything's soft. And, you know, you get on the wave, on the slalom gear, it's so wound up. It's gnarly. Yeah, the gear.
Motocross, isn't it?
It's full on. It's crazy. And the other thing that happened to me was, I tried to do a jibe, you know, just fell in because I can't turn the thing. I mean, my first jibe. And then I'm in the water kicking around to water start and just absolutely just sheared my foot off almost on that bloody fin because I'm so used to the waves. I literally just fall off thinking, oh, okay, I'm a kook, and then just cut my foot. I'm just like, oh my God, it's so gnarly. It's so gnarly. And then I thought about Taddy when he got tangled up in that, you know, thing. I was cut his leg off. And anyway, it's for anyone out there, if you've ever not tried slalom gear, and you just use wave gear, it's interesting. I'm sure after a few goes, you get into the swing of it, but even just having your feet on the outer edge of the board is so weird, isn't it?
It's not very good advert for slalom, Paul. Did you enjoy it?
Well, not really, because the first
now
time,
he's going to sell his tickets to the wave rally.
Mute him.
No. But the reason I said it, you know, it's hard to fully enjoy something when you've just tried it for the first time. Sometimes, like it was just a whole different experience. Like,
you know what?
No, but look, don't get me wrong. If I lived on a lake or somewhere like that, I'd buy the gear and get into it. But when it's your first time after using wave gear,
already. But if only there was a discipline that would combine slalom with like the ease of wave gear. If only
there you go.
Like that.
Well, funny you should say that, because there actually is. Anyway, Maciek, I was actually trying to big up all the slalom sailors, so I think you're taking it the wrong way, mate. I'm actually saying I've got a whole new appreciation for it. And the other thing is, Christopher Key has just got a comment here. I might as well address. G'day, Chris. Good to hear from you, mate. I met him in Geraldton. Thanks for the opportunity. For the videos you produce. Is there any new projects in the pipeline? I probably will do a fair bit more with Jager, because he's obviously lives just down the road from me, and that's obviously great to film him. And I'll just do like little bits and pieces here. I don't really have this timeline where I'm like, oh, in January I'm doing this, in February doing that. It purely just comes from an opportunity. You know, I think, oh, you know, like it literally could be as Jager could send me a message tomorrow and go, do you want to film me tomorrow? Because we're going to do this and that. Oh, okay, cool. And that's how it happens. You know, it's not often planned a lot far in advance. Anyway, I just thought I'd address his comments since it was there. Thanks, Chris. So that was it. I got my 2 points in. Thanks, guys.
All right, boys.
Paul, he got his 2 points in after 3 hours and 3 minutes.
Thanks for letting me talk.
Anytime.
Oh,
good,
until the next time. Thanks for tuning in. Let us know if you're watching this afterwards. There's no way someone's going to watch this on YouTube afterwards, but maybe voice only. But if you are watching on YouTube and you get to the end, let us know in the comments below who you think your winners, losers, who's going to do well this year, who's the underground one who's maybe only signed one rider, but that one rider could catapult them to the what? Who do you think Maciek's signing for? Is he going to sign? Has he just lost his contract? Will he win the court battle? Oh, all these questions will be answered and more.
Oh, that's right. I've got to push the end, don't I? Hold on.
I don't know how it works anymore.
See you guys.
That time of the week again. Sit back, relax, we got the brain of band. No need to stress in the house is Van Bellen. The game is windsurfing, you can't yell them or tell them. We get the news, the views, the win biz. The brand's gear tips plus the world's best quiz. The cars PWA. We're professionals without the pay. There's nothing in pole dancing that we won't chat. From tandem boards to a windsurfing cat. It's your one-stop shop for a laugh and listen. Tune in each week or you'll be doing the missing.